Libra Girls Academy, Samidare Yui. You're a lot like the person I used to be. B. This is what Ryuzoji Geka, the great detective who started this series of events, and executive of the Crime Victims Relief Committee, said about me. This statement was not about my ability as a detective, but about my behavior. That said, the strength and performance between the 000 detective and me are almost worlds apart. There is no way to compare. You are the same as me. I can't tolerate the existence of evil. Therefore, in order to eliminate evil, I decided to get a weapon more powerful than it. This is what Ryuzoji Geka said. I can't tolerate the existence of evil. I do have this mentality, and it has been engraved in my heart ever since I lost my sister. But I am not like them. Is it right to let someone cry to save another? Sacrifices are inevitable to achieve pure relief. That's the conclusion I've come to. Wrong. This is the theory of the strong. Only a person with natural talent such as Ryuzoji Geka would come to this answer. I am a person who have no talent and have been living an ordinary life, so for me, this is a state of mind that I cannot comprehend. Even so, can one still say I am similar to him? That can't be. This battle is also to prove that he and I are not the same. Also, Ryuzoji Geka gave this game a lot of significance. There are several layers to it just from what I can understand. For example, one of the purposes was to expose the true identity of Mikagami Rei, a detective of unknown origin. Another one was to lure Kirigiri Kyoko out of hiding. From a certain perspective, this is also a 000 rank battle he initiated. The future direction of the Crime Victims Relief Committee can also be glimpsed at from the results of this battle. This is the style of the armchair Earl, the genius of parallel thinking and multitasking. However, I can't help but think that there should be a line connecting all these tributaries. The real purpose. What exactly is Ryuzoji Geka trying to find through this game? Anyway, if I want to beat Ryuzoji Geka, I must solve the case in front of me first. I am now at the place where one of the 12 challenges is located, Libra Girls Academy. I don't remember how I got here. After parting ways with Kirigiri Kyoko, I took the train and then changed to a bus to get here. But I don't remember anything after that. When I woke up, I was lying on the floor in an unfamiliar building, with a person in a hooded black cloak standing in front of me, suspected to be the criminal, and behind me was the body of a girl in a sailor uniform, who looked like a high schooler. The black cloak fled away immediately after seeing me, and rushed into a room. I followed him into the room, but the black cloak was gone, only two coffins placed side by side were there. I thought the black cloak hid in one of the coffins, but inside them were two high school girls, who were wearing sailor uniforms like the victim. They both have handcuffs on their hands, shackles on their feet, and duct tape over their mouths. The girl with straight black hair parted in the middle and wearing a hairband that exposed her entire forehead is not Atsukiyo. This girl has cat-like eyes and is not very easy to get along with. The other girl with red hair and a puffy bob haircut is Tokatsu Nazuna, who seems to have a quiet and gentle personality from her appearance. They seem to be classmates. Why were they put in coffins? And where in the world did the disappearing black cloak go? Tsukiyo-san, Nazuna said. Do you remember what happened before you were put in the coffins? No. I just remember that I planned to go to school in the morning and got in a taxi. Taxi? You take taxis to school? I asked, and she shook her head. Today was an exception. The bus I usually take was late because of traffic jams or something. If I waited any longer, I would have been late, so I took a taxi. Me too, Nazuna said. The bus I took is not in the same line as Tsukiyo-san, but it was late for a long time. There was a long queue at the station. I had no choice but to take a taxi. Then, my memory after that is very vague. That means, you were most likely brought here by the taxi drivers. Then again, it's probably because of them that the buses were late, just to get you into the fake taxis. How could this be? Tsukiyo said with a blue face. Who are them you're talking about? Is it some kind of kidnapping gang? You might as well think so. Why did they kidnap us? Because my family is rich? Your family is rich? Compared to most people, yes, but there are plenty of kids around whose families are richer, so why did they pick me? Well, yeah, but... Yes, I saw it with my own eyes, she lost a lot of blood. I also checked her pulse, and it was definitely gone. I'm sorry to say, but she really died. I can't believe that. No, that's why. Look, I have her student handbook. You can fake this kind of thing as much as you want. Maybe Takasaki-san is the mastermind of this strange prank, so everything makes sense. If you say so, then you should go and see for yourself. I said, a little annoyed. It's out of this room and straight ahead. I'd love to go too, but I can't move like this right now. Nazuna held up the handcuffs to show me. Not to mention the handcuffs, if the shackles aren't off of her, she can't move around at will. But, the shackles only connected her 2 feet with chains, not fixed to the coffin. She should be able to walk with some effort. Yep, you should do something about this first. Get it off me, now. Tsukiyo made a fuss. Even if you tell me to open it, I can't. I don't have the key. I shrugged and said. I didn't find anything that looked like a key when I checked both of their bodies just now. And I can't simply open it for you girls so easily. Maybe one of you is the murderer. Just take off the feet ones then. No, I just said I don't have the key. Then don't dawdle, hurry up and look for it. If the key is in the murderer's hands, then snatch it up. Since you're a detective, this kind of trivial matter shouldn't be a problem for you, right? Don't be absurd. But it won't be fruitful to keep arguing like this. I'll go look for the keys and investigate the rest of the place in the meantime. Can you two be nice and stay here? What else can we do besides being nice and staying here? You better go and find out where the bathroom is, and you better not make me hold it for too long. Gee, got it. I turned around and opened the door. If anything happens, just yell, I'll leave the door here open. The two nodded in agreement. Is it really okay to leave them in this room? But if they are really the murderers, there is no need to worry. I planned to leave the door open, but as I released the door handle, it automatically slid back along the slot and slowly closed. This shouldn't be an automatic door, but more of the pulley kind. Which is very common in places like hospitals. By pulling the door all the way open, pushing it all the way and pressing it in, the door won't slide. I can keep the door open like this. I suddenly realized something. The problem isn't with the structure. The door was open when the black cloak escaped into this room. Did they leave the door open in advance? In hindsight, I remember that the other doors were all open, as if they had already determined an escape route from the beginning. Did the murderer plan to come to this room from the beginning? There is another strange thing. Nowhere can I find a knob or a keyhole for locking the door. When I chased behind the black cloak and came to this room for the first time, for a while the door was locked and could not be opened at all. However, there is no lock on the door. Then why couldn't the door open? Was the door stuck or something? The door slides along the rail to one side of the room, so you can just find something like a stick and jam it on the rail to keep the door from opening. However, it looks like there is nothing on the floor around the door. So the black cloak blocked the door from the inside? In that case, the black cloak hardly had any time to hide. Hey you, why are you standing still in that kind of place? Tsukio's voice sounded from behind. Hurry up and find the key. Ah, yeah. I decided to put this issue aside for the time being and went to the corridor. The corridor is about 10 meters long and not particularly wide. The floor is carpeted, so no footsteps can be heard. The walls and ceiling are all wood and have a unique old wood scent. Since there are no windows, I can't see what's going on outside. I crossed the corridor and walked through the door, which is an ordinary swinging door. As I recall, this door was open when the black cloak escaped. I stepped out of the corridor and found myself in the spacious chapel. The interior is covered with a cold stone floor, and there are about 20 pews, and each pew can seat about 10 people. The innermost part of the chapel is a little higher, with a pulpit, a cross, and a statue of the Virgin Mary on it. The opposite seems to be the entrance and exit of this building. It looks like there are no windows in the chapel, and the only light source that can be relied on is the incandescent lamps mounted on the walls. I walked toward the entrance first. Opening a large door, I came to a small room that looks like an entrance hall. The door ahead appears to lead outside, but it's covered with nail-thick planks. With my strength, there is no way to remove the planks, so naturally there is no way out. Next to the entrance hall are separate restrooms for men and women. I went first to the women's restroom to make sure there is no one inside. There are windows inside the toilets, but they are also boarded up. I tentatively also went to the men's restroom and saw no one. If there was, I would have screamed. The windows inside are also boarded up. I more or less have a general idea of the structure of this building. With a spacious rectangular chapel as the center, there are corridors on the left and right extending to both sides, and each end has a circular room. Overlooking the entire building, it happens to be in the shape of a cross, a structure common in places like churches and sanctuaries. By considering the position of the Virgin Mary as the 12 o'clock direction, the 9 o'clock direction is the room where the two coffins are located, the 3 o'clock direction is the room where I first woke up in, and the 6 o'clock direction is the entrance hall. Apart from the restrooms, there are no other rooms and no windows, so it should be assumed that all entrances and exits are completely blocked. We are locked up. I wonder what time it is now. I can't see the light outside, and there is no clock in here, but according to my guts, the time that has passed is probably less than a day. Since I made an agreement with everyone to call it noon, if I can't get through, Kirigiri and the other detectives will come right away. No worst case scenario, it is possible that the other detectives are also locked up like me. I wonder if Kirigiri-chan is okay. There should be no need to worry about her in terms of solving her case, but her willingness of sacrificing everything in pursuit of the truth is even more anxiety-inducing to me. I'm always afraid that she would suddenly disappear at some point. The anxiety probably comes from this. I need to find a way to get out of here and go back to the dorms with Kirigiri-chan. I must solve this case quickly. The murderer must be inside this closed building. That black cloak was no phantom, but real. However, that person disappeared from a locked room with no exit. The two girls who were in the coffins, is one of them the murderer? Nada Tsukio's birthday is July 30th. Tokatsu Nazuna's birthday is August 21st. When I took the train, I checked the range of Libra's birthdays. It's generally between September 24th and October 23rd. Since neither Tsukio nor Nazuna is the murderer, where did the black cloak disappear to? I went back to the chapel with a lot of thoughts in mind. I walked through the rows of pews to the innermost pulpit. I looked carefully behind the pulpit. There is no one here, and there is no other place to hide. I looked up at the statue of the Virgin Mary. It's a plaster statue, about the size of a small child, placed at my chest height. The cross is hung on the wall a little higher. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that the Virgin Mary is wearing a silver shimmering pendant. It's rare to see a decorated statue of the Virgin Mary. I looked closer and saw that it's not a pendant, but a small key with a chain. A key? Could it be the key to the handcuffs? I climbed onto the platform where the statue of the Virgin Mary is, and tried to get the key, but the chain could not be undone. I was going to take it off the head, but the chain was so short that it got stuck on the chin. There is no other way. It would be quicker to call the two of them here. No, probably not. Even if the two of them are brought here, the key hanging high above the head would still not work, let alone if this key is for the shackles. Maybe I should break the neck of the plaster statue to get the key? How can I do such a damning thing? The Virgin Mary also blesses the students in my school. Psychologically speaking, I can't just break her statue. It seems that the feet of the statue of the Virgin Mary are not connected to the base, so it should be possible to lift the statue and move it. I guess I'll just have to carry it to the room I was in earlier. I looked around. In the corner of the chapel is a wheeled rack cart with handles that can be used to push and transport heavy objects. Perfect. I pushed the cart under the statue of the Virgin Mary, then I climbed on the platform, picked up the statue of the Virgin Mary, and gently placed it on the cart. The weight of the statue is about 20 to 30 kilograms. In one of Adago Arampo's novels, there was a body hidden in a plaster statue, but this time there shouldn't be, since the statue would have been heavier in that case. I put the statue on the rack cart, lowered the rack cart down the steps, and pushed it to the room where the coffins are. I walked across the corridor and looked into the room through the wide open door. I found the key. From outside the door, the two coffins can be seen side by side, but Tsukio and Nazuna are not there. Huh? I pushed the rack cart into the room. But then, something suddenly rushed out from the side and slammed into me. I couldn't bear the momentum and fell to the ground sideways. Something pressed on me again. Natsu, now. Grab the key from her. It's Tsukio. She is laying on top of me and pressing me down. Nazuna stood at the door, with handcuffs and shackles still on her hands and feet. I'm sorry, we have no choice. She squatted down next to me, rummaging through my clothes and pockets with her handcuffed hands. Era. What's wrong, Natsu? Look for the key. There isn't any. No key? This girl lied to us. I didn't lie to you. I groaned. You don't have to do this. I'll give you the keys. Shut your mouth. You kidnapper. I'm not a kidnapper. That's the last thing I want to be associated with in this world. I'm a detective. I used all my strength to push Tsukio away, and then stood up. Tsukio looked up at me with a sudden fright, cowering her head. Nazuna is also kneeling on the floor with a troubled look on her face. I patted the hem of my jacket and adjusted the collar. To calm my mind, I took a deep breath and let it out. My name is Sammy Dare Yui. Haven't told you girls yet, have I? Both of you may not be willing to believe me, and to be honest, I'm still doubting you too, so we're even regarding that. All in all, for the time being, let's call a truce, okay? The two nodded silently. I pointed to the statue of the Virgin Mary on the cart. The key is here, hanging around the neck of the Virgin Mary. I couldn't take it off, so I moved the whole thing. I don't know if the key is the one we're looking for, but I think it's worth trying. I pushed the rat cart and brought the statue to Tsukiyo. She sat still, her legs stretched out to the side, her hands stretched forward. When the cuffs come off, don't go off the rails like you did earlier, okay? I know. I brought the handcuffs close to the Virgin Mary's neck and put the key in the keyhole. Turned the key. The handcuffs opened with a click. I guess this is the one. Thank the Lord. Tsukiyo did the sign of the cross. Let's try the shackles as well. I lifted her legs near the Virgin Mary and put the key in the keyhole of the shackles. It opened with ease. That's great, the key is the same on both, so it's probably similar to a master key. Natsu, it's your turn now. The rest was left to Tsukiyo. Soon Nazuna was also free from the shackles and handcuffs. They both happily hugged each other for a while. I checked the inside of the building just now. The entrance and windows have been sealed. It won't be easy to get out. It looks like we have been locked up. Don't joke, I have violin lessons today. Tsukiyo muttered as she rummaged through her uniform pocket. My phone is gone. Me too. Nazuna said. Looks like we've all been cut off from the outside world. I said, crossing my arms. The killer locked us up, which probably means the case isn't over yet. What do you mean? Someone else will be killed. Someone else. Tsukiyo and Nazuna looked at each other with bluish faces. We have to leave the building before that. The techniques used in these pre-announced murders almost always have to be in a designated place to work, so we just have to get out of this building and probably no murders will happen. But, aren't the doors and windows sealed? It may not be possible for me to unseal it alone, but if the three of us work together, we may be able to and get out. How about it, want to try it together? Yeah, we won't be able to achieve anything constructive if we continue to be hostile to each other. What do you think, Natsu? I agree. Nazuna said as she adjusted the ribbon of her sailor uniform. Just let me confirm one thing before that. What? Was Takasaki-san really killed? Yes. I'm sorry. Please let me confirm. Hey, Natsu, no need for that, I don't want to see a dead body. Even though we didn't communicate much, Takasaki was our classmate, and we shouldn't ignore her. Yeah. Tsukiyo grunted with her arms crossed. Well, if Natsu says so, it can't be helped. Okay, I also want to check the crime scene again, let's go to her. I left the room with the two of them, and the door closed automatically. We walked through the corridor and into the chapel. Tsukiyo and Nazuna let out exclamatory sounds. Is this a church? Or maybe a chapel? Do you know anything about this place? I asked, and both shook their heads. It's much older than our academy's chapel. What's the name of this place again? Libra Girls Academy. I heard it was a Christian school that closed 17 years ago. That was before I was born. But it's not very dirty. Nazuna said. This place should be uninhabited ruins for 17 whole years. Those who issued the killing notice did some maintenance and cleanup work so that this place could be used as a stage for the case. Huh, what a terrible organization. Tsukiyo said without a care in the matter. We crossed the chapel and opened the door leading to the corridor. Behind the other door in the front is the room where I woke up and where the body is. By the way, did the two of you hear any movement while you were in the coffins? Like the sound of someone entering the room. I feel like I've heard something like that, but that was probably your footsteps, right? Because what I heard later was the sound of you yelling something. You were unconscious until I opened the coffins? Yeah. What about you, Natsu? That's right. I felt like I fell from a height, so I woke up. Like Tsukiyo-san said, I also felt someone walking around the coffin, and then I heard Samadare-san's voice, and after a while the coffin was opened. Apart from me, didn't you girls feel anyone else entering the room? I don't know. Nazuna lowered her gaze and shook her head. It's no surprise, if they really are innocent victims, then they were put into the coffins unconscious, so I guess there was no way to immediately react to what was going on. Okay, here we are. Takasaki-san's body is in here. I put my hand on the door. The structure of this door is exactly the same as that of the room we were in just now. The room is circular. Probably for this reason, the sliding door is also curved accordingly. I slowly opened the door. Something is not right. As the situation in the room unfolded before my eyes, I found myself breathing faster and faster. Presumably before my mind could react, I have unconsciously felt an almost terrifying sense of incongruity. The door opened all the way, and everything in the circular room is in full view. There is no dead body. Yeah? What's going on? I rushed into the room and bent down where the body was supposed to be to check the carpet, but not only is there no blood on the carpet, there is not even a trace of the blood being wiped. The body should be here. Are you okay? Tsukiyo and Nazuna walked up to me and looked at me in surprise. They even showed pity on their faces. I felt dizzy and couldn't help but lower my head. I feel very uncomfortable, maybe because my mind can no longer keep up with the current too abnormal situation. Hey, what's wrong? Sorry. I don't know what's wrong myself. Takasaki-san's body was originally here, but it's gone now, wasn't it? Nazuna said, looking around the room. Not a trace left? Probably. Was there really a body? Tsukiyo looked at me with increasingly suspicious eyes. It's true, yes, her student handbook. I suddenly remembered and took it out of my pocket. There is no doubt in my mind that this girl is the one who died here. No doubt. Could it be that the murderer came back to hide the body? Nazuna said while brooding and stroking her lips with her fingertips. That's all I can think of. If that's the case, Tsukiyo-san and I are cleared of suspicion. If one of us, or both are murderers, we would have bumped with Detective-san when moving the corpse. Not to mention, with both hands and feet locked, we had no way to move the body. Yeah, we're not the murderers. Then again, the question now is whether the murder actually happened or not, right? The two have triumphant smiles on their faces. Did the murderer sneak into this room while I was checking the restrooms to move the body? Why would they do this on purpose? Even if the murderer did move the body, where did they move the body to? The only place to hide the body in is probably the restrooms, but how could the murderer move the body right under my nose? I don't understand it at all. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, for now, let's think about how to get out. Yeah, if we don't go back soon, we won't be able to make it in time for class. Tsukiyo hummed a song and reached out to the door. She hasn't yet figured out how serious the situation is, and she is thinking it's just a bad harassment or a gross prank. She tried to leave the room, but her body suddenly froze. What's wrong, Tsukiyo-san? Nazuna ran over. Can't be opened. Tsukiyo desperately tried to open the door, but the door wouldn't budge. Nazuna also tried to hold the door handle, but still couldn't open it. The two people's expressions quickly clouded over. The door of the opposite room could not be opened for a while too. It may take some technique to open it. This time I held the door handle. No matter how hard I tried, the door wouldn't move. We're locked up. We looked at each other. How is that possible? We are locked in a place with no TV or phone? Tsukiyo said with a stunned look on her face. I haven't gone to the toilet yet. We may stay like this for a long time. A long time? How long is a long time? Worst case scenario, almost 6 days. If none of the other detectives come to my rescue, and the murderer's purpose is to drag on until the time limit of the black challenge passes, then maybe I should prepare myself for that. No way. 6 whole days will kill me. Tsukiyo slammed on the door anxiously. At least give us some water and food. But no hard water. Make it soft mineral water. And let me go to the toilet first. Why won't it open? Nazuna said while observing the door. There's no lock on the door. There is no lock on the door, and the same was true for the room where the coffins are, except this time the door wouldn't open while we are indoors. I suddenly noticed something unusual. This door, isn't it a little strange? Strange how? Tsukiyo asked with a sting in her words. In the other room, there was a rail on the inner side for the door to slide, so I think as long as it's stuck with something, it cannot be opened from the outside. But there is no rail on the inner side of the door of this room. So as long as it's stuck with something on the corridor side, the door might not open. Then you mean that the cloaked pervert took advantage of our entry into the room to jam the door? Probably. What is the purpose of the murderer locking us up? We were completely caught by the murderer's trap. I think everything is within their plan so far. The detective is being toyed with. I feel more and more useless. I really can't do anything by myself. If Kirigiri-chan is here, what would she do at this time? She always thinks about what to do next. And never stops searching for the truth. That's right, she would never take her eyes off the case in front of her. I can't give up. I have to stand up and move forward. There must be some kind of mechanism at work. There is no other possibility. I said as I stepped away from the door and looked around. Maybe the two facts, us being locked up and the disappearance of the body, are not unrelated. There must be some secret hidden in here that we haven't discovered yet. Secret? Tsukiyo and Nazuna asked back at the same time. I nodded. I will definitely solve the mystery of this locked room. As if telling myself, and at the same time as if I wanted the murderer to hear it, I announced it. Goodbye bar, Yaki Hajiki. A street in the business district is lined with tightly closed rolling shutters. From about 30 years ago, this place began to decline gradually, and these days only few shops remain. Starting at the street entrance, count down the shops on the right to between the 7th and 8th, where there is a narrow alley that barely fits for one person. Walk into this path, turn left then right then left again, and you will see a sign that reads Kurwa Clinic. Directly below the sign is an old door. That's the entrance to the Goodbye Bar. This store had been opened and closed, again and again, with different managers, names, and styles each time. From a simple cafe that pursued quality coffee, to a bistro with karaoke and girls, I heard that it was also a mahjong parlor and a dark bar once that engaged in illegal gambling. I heard that the name of the last bar that opened in this place was named Goodbye, which is a very suitable name to end the day at. The bar had a great atmosphere, with the non-verbal bartenders mixing up a variety of colorful cocktails. There is no record of where the bartenders are now. As for Goodbye, there didn't seem to be anything illegal about it. After the bar closed, street thugs and gangsters secretly used it as a base for their underground deals. The residents here have also expressed their desire to have this place demolished, but there are thousands of buildings on this depressed street that needs to. January 11th, after 10 p.m. Background and no education can climb it up, but now I know that even a kid who's a lot smaller than me can make me lose my shit. Don't tell me, I heard that you were once rolled up by a strange gothic Lolita girl. Is this true? Not a rumor, it's real. Fucking pathetic. If it were me, it'd only take 5 seconds to get her on her knees begging for mercy. Where's the kid? Where's she now? I don't know, she appeared and disappeared in a flash. Oba said with an exaggerated sigh. Let's not talk about that. What's wrong with Goodbye? If there's money to be made, count me in. That's the spirit. Make no mistake, this time it's a murder case. Murder. Yeah, I'm no expert either, just to collect info. It's not easy being a detective. Oba suddenly lost interest, repositioned his hat, and sank into the seat. We'll be there soon. The man in the passenger seat turned around and said. On the chest pocket of the man's suit is the name tag of a staff member of a real estate chain company, Arai Gunzo. The real. Oba Ryo's birthday, September 29th. Arai's birthday, November 1st. If you win the lottery with my birthday, remember to share 10% with me. Same old cheap bastard. When they came to their senses, the taxi had already stopped. Yaki, Oba, and Arai got out of the car at the entrance of the business district. On both sides of the narrow road without a soul, there are rows of walls with rolling shutters, almost like a labyrinth. There must be some inhuman creature lurking in the deep darkness. Arai unfolded the map under a street lamp. Actually, I've only recently been in charge of this area, so I'm not very clear about the location of the store. Just lend us the key. You can wait here. Oba urged Arai to give him the key. No, that's no how. Just then, the phone rang suddenly. Everyone reached into their pockets, and it's Arai's cell phone that's ringing. Sorry, I have to take a call. Arai said and pressed the call button. Yes, that's right, yeah. Arai stood off to the side talking on the phone while Yaki impatiently took out a cigarette from his pocket and held it in his mouth. He didn't light his cigarette, it has been almost a year. I can't hear you well. Goodbye, huh? Yes, I did hear about a store like that. My feet are also tied. Someone locked me up. Locked up? Yaki took the phone away from his ear and glanced at the content displayed on the screen. However, only hidden number is displayed on the screen, and the phone number of the caller is unknown. From the sound of his voice, he is a man of a certain age. Hey, where are you being held? Why did you call this number? There's a phone in front of me. I tried to call 110, but the buttons weren't responding. As soon as I pressed the call button, it got through. Please, help me call the police, 110. The hoarse voice was hard to hear. Where are you? On the match, it says goodbye bar. The scattered dots in Yaki's mind formed a line. The something-something committee has already announced that it will create a murder case in Goodbye, so the person on the other end of the phone must be the target of the organization, the victim this time. That's right, the game has already started. I'll be right there, hold on. Yaki turned around and gave Oba a glance. Take me to the store, hurry up. All right, this way. Oba ran. You come along too. Yaki beckoned to Arai and yelled. He was puzzled, but he still followed behind them. Hey, can you hear me? Yaki said loudly to the phone. Don't hang up, stay on hold. The group ran through the labyrinth-like roads with Oba leading the way. The small alley is much dimmer than the main road outside. The pipes clinging on the walls of the buildings looks like unidentified species of plants, making it feel eerie. It's no longer a labyrinth, but a jungle at night. If you stumble into this place by mistake, you might not be able to get out again. Yaki followed Oba while calling 110 with his phone. Although he wanted to avoid dealing with the police as much as possible, since the person on the other end of the phone asked him to do so, there is nothing else he could do. If he forgets to call the police, he can imagine the difficult situation he will be in afterwards. He roughly explained to the police that a man in the business district is calling for help, and then hung up the phone. The police should be confused now. Oba stopped. Right here. The door is located at a halfway point where it's difficult to tell where the building stood from one end to the other. A pitch-black door without any decoration seems even murkier in the darkness, filled with a sense of tranquility, as if the surrounding sounds are also sucked in. Yaki twisted the doorknob without hesitation. However, the door was locked and could not be opened. Hey, can you hear me? He banged the door hard and shouted. You're the one knocking on the door? How are you so fast? The person on the other end of the phone responded. Don't worry about the little things. Are you okay? Yeah. I'm fine at the moment except that I can't move. The person on the other end of the phone may have regained consciousness slowly. Originally, his speech was slurred, but now he has recovered a lot. It seems that Yaki is finally one step ahead of the organization. The no emotions little pipsqueak detective said that he should not pursue the criminal, but as long as they take precautions, there is no problem. By now Yaki is sure he will win the MVP award. I'll open the door right away, you just wait. The key. Yaki turned around and yelled at Arai. Arai took out a set of keys from his pocket, and there were countless keys hanging on the key ring. The keys are each marked with a number, but finding the goodbye key from it seems like a lot of work. Why didn't you prepare it in advance? You fucking idiot. I'm sorry, Arai was even more flustered by his prodding. I found it. It should be this one. Yaki grabbed the key from the side and inserted it into the keyhole. The key turned. It's the correct one. Yaki pushed the door open and rushed in first. Ugh. A dull moan came from somewhere. It was the man on the other end of the phone. However, the room is so dark that almost nothing can be seen. The darkness has settled over a long period of time and is so thick that it's almost hard to breathe. The only dim light that could be seen deep inside the room is a lamp on the bar. Probably because the luminance is so low that it's hard to rely on it for lighting. Ugh. A man is lying beside that light. As Yaki approached him step by step, the abnormality of the situation became clearer. He is an old man in a brown suit, sitting on a high stool, leaning forward on the bar. His hands are tied together under the bar and the rope is tied to the high stool, and it seems that's why he couldn't straighten himself up. Both of his feet are also tied. Are you all right? Hey. Yaki was about to reach out to touch the man's shoulder when he suddenly gasped. The man has a knife stuck in his back. The man's body is shaking slightly, he is still alive. Not surprising, since he was still talking to Yaki just now. In other words, the man had just been assassinated. Bro, what's wrong? I don't know. Anyway, someone have just been stabbed. Oba and Arai approached the bar cautiously. Yaki touched the neck of the man lying on the bar. It's still warm and has a pulse. Call an ambulance. Maybe we can still save him. Why yes. Oba took out his cell phone from the pocket of his down jacket and began to dial in a panic. Yaki carefully observed the bar. The light from the lamp on the bar illuminates three things. The first item is an old matchbox with the words goodbye bar written on its surface, as well as the address and phone number, which is probably what the man mentioned on the phone. The second item is a flip phone. The phone is open, the LCD screen is facing up, and it's still in a call. Yaki wrapped it in a napkin and picked it up so that he wouldn't leave fingerprints on it. He spoke to the phone, and his voice came out a few seconds later from the phone he got from Arai. There is no doubt that the two phones are connected to each other. After hanging up one of them, the call on the other end also got cut off. The third item is an ordinary ballpoint pen. The cap is attached. Old man, you can't turn on the lights here? Yaki asked Arai. Why yes. The contract with the power company had expired a long time ago. Have you brought a flashlight? Don't tell me you didn't. Yaki said, then called for the man lying on the bar. Don't die, uncle. The ambulance will be here soon. Bro, situation's not good, isn't it like we did it? And nothing to be afraid of. I just had a child. I don't want to go to jail at a time like this. A dad behind bars is not a funny joke. Calm down. You and the old man can go to the door and keep watch. Don't let anyone out. Oba and Arai nodded while shaking, and then returned to the door of the store. Looking from where Yaki is, only the outline of two persons can be barely seen in the darkness. Perhaps the murderer is taking advantage of this darkness and lurking indoors. Yaki took the lamp in his hand. It's the kind with batteries, and it should be able to replace a flashlight. That said, it's just a small light bulb, not very useful. He started looking around the room. The kitchen and cabinets behind the bar were well stocked, but it doesn't look like someone is hiding inside. Bro. What's up? I suddenly remembered, is there a back door to the store? Back door? Yaki walked to the corner of the store, where there is indeed an aluminum door that feels chilly. But the door handle wouldn't turn. The knob in the center of the door lock is sideways, locking the door. Is this the fabled locked room? Yaki tooted. Just before Yaki and his group entered the store, the victim was still fine, and was able to talk to Yaki on the phone. However, when Yaki and the others stepped into the store, the victim was dying with a small knife stuck in his back. The murderer stabbed the victim before Yaki and his group entered the store, and then where did they escape to? Where the hell did they go? If the murderer did escape through the front door, he would have bumped into Yaki. Besides, the door was locked, and the key was with Yaki. So is the murderer still hiding indoors? This isn't possible either. Yaki already checked the place thoroughly and couldn't find the murderer. There's no one behind the bar, in the cupboard, not even the old jukebox where no one can hide in. So the murderer escaped through the back door? But the back door is locked from the inside. It's a simple rotary door lock, but there is no gap on the side of the door, so it should be impossible to manipulate it from outside by wires and the like. The murderer stabbed the victim in a flash and disappeared in a flash. Damn it. I can't back down from this. Don't chase after them. Yaki's detective's pride has been hurt and now I've completely put this sentence behind him. Oba. Don't run around until I come back. Where are you going, bro? I'm going to win back my losses. Yaki said casually, then suddenly realized something. Saying such words is a big taboo that spells death for gamblers. However, he didn't stop walking forward. It would be too shameful to look back at this case, and for this reason, Yaki crossed the line. He unlocked the back door and rushed out. Since the murderer isn't indoors, they could have only gone out. The only way to the outside besides the entrance door is the back door, which means the murderer fled in this direction. Not sure how they did it. Maybe they used some technique to lock the door from the outside. Once outside, there is a wall opposite. The path extends left and right. To the left is a dead end, with buildings jutting forward, blocking off the top. There is no way to go. 3 wooden crates of unknown dates containing beer are piled on the ground, but of course, the crates are not big enough to hide a person. Yaki ran to the right. There is a dizzying darkness. The lamp in his hand can barely even illuminate the path ahead. With no map or weapons, Yaki felt the tingling sensation of his fingertips for the first time in a while, feeling as if he is going through a jungle inhabited by terrifying demons. That's right, that's how it felt. He used to enjoy this feeling in various gambling games, but in the end he became numb, and that life lost its novelty to him. So he found a job as a detective. To deal with guys of both brain and brawn, to catch them by surprise, to cheat them for a lot of money, it made him as excited as a child. Sometimes the client thanks him a lot, and thus the thug also became a hero. Drugs are nothing. The thrill of being a hero is unparalleled. Let's run. The road in front of Yaki turned to the right. The mixture of fear and excitement sent him into a state of euphoria, and after he turned the corner. Suddenly, a small figure appeared there. Yaki drew a cold breath and jumped backwards. His reflex nerves had saved him many times, and this time they likewise allowed him to observe the person in front of him. A child? A boy smiling with a mysterious, inhuman beauty. Or is it a girl? Standing there is a foreign-looking kid in a suit vest, with his jacket draped over one arm. His complexion made it impossible to tell whether he is alive or dead, blending in with the darkness around him, as if he can see behind him through his body. There is also a distinctive scent. Is it some kind of perfume? He or she is blocking the way in the dark with a calm expression on his face. Could it be this kid? You, what are you doing in a place like this? Failed. Wah. No one went through here. His brisk voice is reminiscent of a pipe organ. A voice that seems to be enjoying the situation. So you're the murderer? Yaki said, crossing his arms. I told you just now, you failed. Stop kidding around. Otherwise, why would a kid like you be here? It seems you know what's going on over here too. Who the hell are you? I'm here to advise you, those people don't want to add extra victims. Please don't go any further. None of your business. Yaki stretched out his hand to grab the clothes of the other's chest. However, the child lightly dodged it. Then a helpless smile appeared on his face, and he quickly disappeared in the path ahead. Hey, wait. In the darkness, only an uncanny scent remained. Damn it, I'm not going to be at the mercy of others. Yaki ran up and chased the vanishing boy. Museum of Medieval Western Europe Torture Devices, Mizuyama Sachi. After being separated from Kirigiri and the others for a few hours, Mizuyama arrived at the Museum of Medieval Western Europe Torture Devices. It was close to sunset and out of nowhere came the siren, telling the children it was time to go home. The museum stands alone on the hillside of a newly developed residential area. This building used to be a university's repository. About 20 years ago, students held exhibitions of materials on college festivals, where professional and amateur researchers from all over the country were said to have gathered. In view of this, the university decided to open the building to the public as a museum. However, after 6 months of initial success, the number of visitors dwindled and the building returned to its original dark and gloomy state in the blink of an eye. Not only that, the population around the building started to increase due to land development, and the residents, for no apparent reason, complained about the building and, in their words, felt uncomfortable at the thought of having a place nearby where torture devices were on display. In recent years, the building was remodeled into a modern style, but this remodeling did not have much effect, and the museum was eventually closed, in large part because the university that funded it went bankrupt financially and was forced to change its legal entity. As for what happened to the building after it closed, few of the local residents knew anything about it. The gloomy building was gradually overshadowed by a more peaceful scene, and no one paid any attention to it since. Mizuyama used to visit the Museum of Medieval Western Europe Torture Devices when it was being renovated, not to see the exhibits, but to see the building. It was remodeled by a famous architect, and for Mizuyama, it was one of the places she liked to visit for future references. The impression of the building is unchanged from that time, with almost all of the exterior walls made of glass, a standard modern style appearance, and a square structure without any superfluous. However, there are almost no right-angled parts on the surface of the building, which is made of curved surfaces. It must have been an attempt to mitigate the eerie feeling of the building as much as possible. Although it's an imitation of gaudy style, the special order glass must have costed a lot of budget, perhaps enough to be included in the legacy of the bubble economy gaudy. Mizuyama got off the taxi in front of the building and was first taken aback by the sight of people coming and going. The museum is supposed to be closed. Why are so many people gathered here? She soon realized that these people are not ordinary visitors. Some men in suits, a group of people carrying camera equipment, a team wearing jackets with police logos. It seemed that she is a step too late. Mizuyama pretended to be a relevant person and walked into the building as if nothing had happened. And despite everyone around was staring at her intently, no one came up to stop her. It didn't look like a cordon had been set up here either. The man quickly picked up her glasses and helped to lift Mizuyama up. She stood up casually, took the glasses, and patted the dust on her kimono. It's okay, these glasses are not easy to break. Mizuyama put on the glasses again as if she is checking whether the glasses are firm. No, I'm asking about you. Enough about that, did something happen? Mizuyama leaned forward and asked. The man said deflatedly. Well, there has been a fire, the building is safe, but the hut outside caught fire. Mizuyama tilted her head. Fire? I remember that the murder weapon written in the challenge letter was the Iron Maiden. It said Iron Maiden, yet it was fire? Speaking of the Iron Maiden, it's a torture device that was used by the notorious Elizabeth Bathory in order to bathe in the blood of virgins. It's quite a famous legend. The inside of the hollow cabinet is equipped with numerous long needles. After the person is put in and the cover is closed, the long needles would pierce the whole body of the person. That said, despite the preconceived idea of this legend, there are many doubts about whether the Iron Maiden was really used for execution or torture. Some people also believe that the legend may have been reversed and that the imaginary torture device was made into a real object based on it. In any case, this museum of medieval Western Europe torture devices had a replica of the Iron Maiden of the original found in a German castle in the 19th century, which was burned during the war. Still, it's undeniable that its source is still unreliable. All in all, if the Iron Maiden was used to kill someone, most people would first think of putting the victim inside and closing the lid. At least Mizuyama thought so. But what actually happened was a fire. Does this incident have nothing to do with the Crime Victims Relief Committee? Did anyone unfortunately die in this fire? Why yeah, a person related to our university. And their name was? The man looked back at Mizuyama in surprise. Are you by any chance from the media? If that's the case, I'm sorry, I'm not going to tell you. You still think I'm from the media when you see me dressed like this? Mizuyama motioned him to look at her kimono. My. About 4 hours ago, a nearby resident called the police to report a fire. It was around 1 p.m. On January 11th, when Mizuyama and the others gathered in front of the statue at the station. The fire was reported to have broken out in the prefabricated hut in the courtyard of the Museum of Medieval Western Europe Torture Devices. After receiving the news, fire trucks rushed to the scene. It didn't take long for firefighters to successfully put out the fire, but found a charred male body inside the hut. The deceased was a university professor Itagaki Fukuju, 50 years old. The detailed cause of death is still unclear. This museum is usually closed, right? Mizuyama asked. Yes, that said, I don't really know the details. This building was bought by a company several years ago and is no longer owned by our university. People from our university only come here occasionally to organize data. Is the university still in charge of managing the data? I don't know much about that. I only came to this university last year. I was originally a clerk. What about the contents? I mean, are the torture devices and other materials still intact? Yeah, maybe. The man's expression turned gloomy, and it seems that Mizuyama's inquiries had made him suspicious of her. His changes did not escape Mizuyama's eyes, and she quickly left the scene after thanking him. Since she became a detective, Mizuyama had been dealing with inorganic materials such as wood or cement, that is, buildings. But at the same time, she is also very good at reading people's emotions from their expressions, words, and actions. Had she chosen a career like a psychologist, she might now be a well-respected doctor in a well-known private practice, and she actually has experience working as a psychologist at school. Even so, she still chose to deal with buildings, because she found a more complex spirit than the human heart. She enjoys observing the soul contained in buildings, which she has an academic interest in. What kind of soul is contained in the building where torture devices were displayed? Mizuyama was looking forward to understanding this issue through this incident. It's also true that she chose this place from several options out of some curiosity. This time, she is not originally responsible for solving the case, as long as she collects information, even if she harbors selfish interests such as an academic interest in curiosity, no one would say anything to her. However, when she actually faced the case, she felt that this case has nothing to do with the high spirits. The fact that the crime scene is in a hut far from the museum is the first thing that upset her. The museum played a supporting role. Also, the victim was caught in a fire, which gave her an incongruous impression. Since the Iron Maiden was chosen as the murder weapon, why was the victim burned to death? Of course, there are still many things unclear. Maybe the fire was just to create association with things like burning at the stake. If there is no performance of this level, it would be meaningless to choose this place as the scene of the crime. There is not enough information at the moment, let's investigate further. Mizuyama temporarily left the building and went to the prefabricated hut that was said to be the site of the fire. She crossed the narrow path paved with fine sand and came to the courtyard behind the museum. There, Mizuyama witnessed a fascinating thing. The center of the broad courtyard is slightly raised to form a small hillside. It seems that the original plan was to build a fine courtyard like a snazzy art museum with artworks, but in the end it did not work out as planned. The empty courtyard has changed little from the last time she was here, and now there is only a teal-colored, withered lawn covered with a thin layer of snow. However, in the courtyard that is supposed to be empty, there is a unique work of art standing alone. Was it recently used? Mizuyama pushed her glasses and looked intently. She fell on her way up the hill. Undaunted, she stood up, adjusted the position of her glasses, and approached the artwork in question. Taking a closer look, she immediately understood. It's the Iron Maiden. A blackened Iron Maiden is standing at the highest point on the hill where snow remained. It seems that this incident isn't unrelated to the committee. Mizuyama is well aware of the behavior of the Crime Victims Relief Committee. The strange murder scene, the strange method, and the puzzling phenomenon are undoubtedly among the contents of the challenge letter. Several lines of footprints were left next to the Iron Maiden, probably left by investigators involved. Mizuyama continued to approach the object, adding her own footprints to the other ones. It's about 20 meters away from the entrance of the courtyard, and there is nothing in the surrounding area that obstructs the view, which makes the Iron Maiden particularly eye-catching. But something is wrong. It's a little different from what Mizuyama imagined. Generally speaking, when it comes to the Iron Maiden, as its name suggests, it's made in the likeness of a young girl and is more like a pear in shape. After putting a person in, the person will be completely covered by the Iron Maiden from head to toe. However, the girl in front of her has no part above her neck. In other words, a headless Iron Maiden. Could it be? Mizuyama looked inside the headless girl. Nothing at all. She thought about whether there would be a headless corpse in it, but it seemed she was overthinking. If there really was a corpse in it, it wouldn't just be left here, there would have been blood everywhere around. And there would be not only blood inside the Iron Maiden, but also a puddle of water formed after the snow had melted. Mizuyama examined the headless Iron Maiden again. It's not very big overall, partly because it doesn't have a head, so it looks small, but originally it's also not very big. At most it could only fit an underage girl in it, which is exactly what Elizabeth was using it for. Its body part can be opened from the middle to the left and right, with its two iron lids, which are now closed. There are countless thorns on the inside of the lids, which was the weapon that sucked young girls' blood. It's just that because it's a replica, the tips of the thorns are rounded like crayons, so people don't feel any danger near them. The cut surface of the neck is almost horizontal, and traces of thorough burning with a welding torch can be seen. The head of the girl who had been cut off is not around. The whole body is wet from the inside out, probably caused by snow or frost, which makes the black metal look even more swarthy. However, there are almost no traces of rust on it. This piece of art should have been placed here recently. Hey, what are you doing there? A voice came from a distance. Two men in suits trotted up from the bottom of the hillside, both of them are middle-aged men with stern faces. They should be criminal police. The two men looked at Mizuyama up and down and asked questions. Who are you? What are you doing here? This is who I am. Mizuyama truthfully revealed her identity to them and handed over the business card with the dual careers of detective and architect written on it. This time, concealing identity or telling some unsophisticated lies will be detrimental. A detective, or should I call you an architect? What are you doing here? What about you two? What are you doing here? Mizuyama asked back. This sentence angered one of the two men, and his expression became unpleasant. The other one laughed out of his nose as if he heard a joke. We're the ones asking you. The man took out his police officer card from his suit pocket to show his identity. If I don't deal with them properly, it will only fuel their hubris. There are few detectives who are good at dealing with the police, and Ms. Uyama is not one of them, not to mention that she suffered a lot from the police in yesterday's case. It's always a bit irritating to hold saying a sarcastic word or two, but Ms. Uyama decided to answer them honestly. Actually, among our peers, there is a suspicious document being circulated around. Ms. Uyama handed them a copy of the challenge letter. Although I think it's just a prank, I'm still worried, so I came to take a look. Suspicious document? Would you mind showing me? The police took the copy. It's a fake that Ms. Uyama had made from a gourd, prepared in advance for just such a time. Well, I don't quite understand what is written on it. She did some processing to the copy, deliberately making the text difficult to read. That's how it was when it was delivered to me. Look, here you can barely make out Museum of Medieval Western Europe torture devices, right? Who sent this? I don't know. It was faxed from an unfamiliar number at about noon today, and the detectives I know seem to have received the same suspicious documents. Could it be that something really did happen? Something like that. The two detectives looked at each other. This is the first time you have received such a suspicious document? Yes. Is that so? We've heard rumors about black challenge letters. Maybe this is it. Black challenge letters? Ms. Uyama pretended not to know anything and asked rhetorically. It seems that the police are not completely ignorant of the black challenge. Not to mention the low-level criminal police, it's possible that the high-ranking ones have identified the existence of the Crime Victim Relief Committee and have actually launched an investigation. The people who are involved in this kind of crime are the kind of people who commit them for fun, right? We'd like to ask you for more details. Are you available now? Ms. Uyama-san. I still have something to do after that. It should be fine for about an hour or so. It won't take you that long, the police said with an unnatural smile. It's not a good idea to stand around and talk here. Let's go inside. Okay. Despite what she said, Ms. Uyama didn't move a step. Ms. Uyama-san, please come this way. Before that, can I ask you a question? What's going on with this wonderful display? She pointed to the headless girl and asked. We're not quite sure. It looks like a torture device from the museum collection. When was it placed here? I'll tell you later, anyway. No, I won't leave here until you answer. Ms. Uyama said firmly. The two detectives finally showed their troubled expressions inside at the same time. Until yesterday, there was nothing in this courtyard. One of the policemen replied reluctantly. So, it was put here before the fire broke out? It's not very clear. This fascinating decoration suddenly appeared in the courtyard. Does it have nothing to do with the fire? We don't know. It's not unrelated, right? Hey, Ms. Uyama-san. Is this the only thing found in the courtyard? The prefabricated hut where the fire broke out is located opposite the museum, below the hillside. If you stand on the hill, you can see the hut down. Due to the obstruction of the criminal police, Ms. Uyama was not able to take a closer look, but she did take a quick glance at the hut. The prefabricated hut must be as big as 12 tatami mats, roughly 35 square meters or 376.7 square feet, and is now used as a warehouse. When the museum was still open, the hut was used as a restroom for security guards. Due to the fire, the area around the windows of the hut got charred, but the hut did not collapse and remained in its original shape. When the firefighters arrived, the flames were already coming out from the window. The window glass was broken at the time, and it was later confirmed that the fire was the cause. The crescent lock on the window was locked from the inside, as was the frame door of the entrance. The door key was found in the trouser pocket of the man who died inside the hut, but that key is easy to duplicate, yet the possibility of a spare key cannot be denied. However, it's certain that at least when the fire broke out, the hut was locked up. In addition, there were no footprints on the surrounding snow, and no footprints of the deceased were found. Therefore, it can be inferred that the man entered the hut when or before it snowed last night. The fire started after noon, and if anyone had approached the hut at this time, there would have been footprints in the snow. The deceased Itagaki was found lying on his back on a futon in the hut, and it was later confirmed that the cause of his death was burning. There were no obvious external injuries on his body and no signs of a struggle in the room. The source of the fire was a cigarette and matches found on the pillow of the futon. Based on the previous facts, the cause of the fire in the prefabricated hut was identified as fire caused by careless smoking. Thus, the case of the Museum of Medieval Western Europe torture devices ended hastily and became an inconspicuous part of the evening news and newspaper corners. Why did Itagaki Fukuju lie down and smoke in a closed museum warehouse? Libra Girls Academy, Samidare Yui. I wonder how many hours passed since we've been locked in this circular room. Because there is no clock, I don't know the exact time. Maybe it's only been a few minutes. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. Tsukiyo is curled up against the wall of the room. She has been in this state for quite a while, mumbling about her physical needs like she is talking gibberish. I need to go to the toilet. Worst case scenario, you can do it here. I won't blame you. I told her. Absolutely not. I'd rather kill you than kill myself instead of doing something like that. Besides, why are you so condescending? Just because you have a little more leeway to pee than I do, suddenly you become all high and mighty? You're in no position to order me around. That's not what I meant. I feel tired from the bottom of my heart, barely coping with Tsukiyo's agitated shouting. Going tit for tat with her at this time would only waste both our energy. I sat on the chair in front of the desk, drawing diagrams with the papers and pencils I found in the drawer, trying to unravel the... Yeah, I was in a coma here for a while. When I regained consciousness, Takasaki's body was lying behind me, and the murderer in the black cloak was standing in front of me. Yes, it's true. She wasn't breathing and her pulse had stopped. I did check. I've heard that the pulse on the wrist can be stopped by some kind of technique. There is such a way, but I didn't check the wrist for a pulse, I checked the neck. I've never heard of any way to stop the pulse of the neck. And her body temperature had dropped. It's a feeling you don't get from a living person. Eh? Nazuna suddenly thought of something, raised her head, and brushed her hair with one hand. The body's temperature had dropped? Yeah, what's wrong with that? That means that some time had passed since Takasaki was killed, is that correct? Yes. If so, the Black Cloak's actions were really unnatural. When Samadare-san woke up, the Black Cloak was standing next to you with an iron pipe in their hand, right? If they had just killed Takasaki, it would be understandable. But the fact is, it had been a while since Takasaki was killed, more than an hour to say the least. The Black Cloak was still standing there after such a long time. What were they doing? I think they were probably preparing the locked room technique, because I woke up earlier than they expected, and they didn't have time. They were making preparations with the iron pipe in their hand? Maybe they just happened to be walking around with the iron pipe in their hand at the time. I see, if they were preparing the locked room technique, then why did they ignore Samadare-san? If I was the Black Cloak, I would first, for example, tie up Samadare-san with handcuffs and a blindfold on the eyes. As long as I take precautions in advance, even if Samadare-san suddenly woke up at an unexpected time, I wouldn't have to worry that you will see something I don't want you to see. That's true. Why did the criminal leave Samadare-san unrestrained while they had plenty of time? I think this is because they didn't need to. So, what's the situation where you don't need to be restrained? The preparations had already been completed. I can only think of this one possibility. Based on this deduction, I think the next conclusion that can be drawn is that the ruse was completed while Samadare-san was lying in this room. Mizuna calmly explained her logic without a pause. Maybe she is far more suitable to be a detective than me. Since the ruse had been completed, the answer about the reason why the Black Cloak stayed in this room for more than an hour, because they were preparing the locked room technique, doesn't make sense. Then, what was the Black Cloak doing here? That I don't know. I've been thinking about this for a long time now. Nazuna shook her head feebly. But I have a feeling that should be an important key in this case. Yeah, you're right. What was the Black Cloak doing here? I recalled the scene when I woke up again. There was a person standing in front of me. The person was wrapped in a black cloak from head to toe. They were staring at me. Ah, right. The Black Cloak was staring at me. Why? I told Nazuna about the situation at that time. Was there anything about Samadar-san's dress that concerned the Black Cloak? Nazuna circled around the desk and studied me closely. There's nothing unusual. Ah, the glasses. When I woke up, my glasses were gone. I couldn't see my surroundings clearly at the time. Could it have anything to do with that? And where were the glasses? It had fallen beside me. It should have been taken off by the Black Cloak on purpose. Even if that's the case, why was the Black Cloak staring at Samadar-san is the real mystery here. They didn't have to double-check that you weren't really wearing glasses. Maybe you just have an ugly sleeping face? Tsukiyo, who had been silent for a while, suddenly interrupted. She was still curled up in a ball as before, but there was a malicious smile on her face. Sure, I'm not confident in my sleeping face, but that has nothing to do with what's going on now. I remembered when I was in middle school, I stayed in Ariakan on a school trip, and my classmates secretly took a picture of me sleeping. Later, she showed it to me, and I was shocked. My whole face was completely relaxed, and my belly was exposed. Or maybe they were wondering how long this dumb face is going to stay asleep? Foo-foo. Ah. In an instant, I felt the scattered fragments in my mind suddenly combining to form a complete picture. Why are you yelling so loudly? Tsukiyo said, her eyes a little scared. You're right, Tsukiyo-chan. You admit you have a dumb face? That's not it. The Black Cloak was looking at me. They were waiting for me to wake up. Huh? What do you mean? I think Natsu-chan is right. When I was lying in this room, the preparations for the technique had been completed. But that's not the end of it. No matter how elaborately constructed a machine is, it will not work unless a switch is turned on, and I was probably that switch. Samadar-san means that you are one of the elements of this technique? Nazuna asked. Yes. To be more specific, I think the going after the Black Cloak was a necessary part of making this technique work. At the time, I thought I had the Black Cloak cornered, but that was in their plan as well. Instead of running away, the Black Cloak was trying to lure me. Now that I think about it, all the doors on the Black Cloak's escape route had been opened in advance, especially the doors of the circular rooms. These doors were open to the far end and pressed, otherwise it wouldn't have been fixed. It should be considered that was not accidental, but a conscious effort to open the doors in advance. And, considering what happened after that, the disappearance of the Black Cloak and the disappearance of the body, then it is conceivable that the Black Cloak intended for me to see it. I was. In the end, you haven't made any progress. I want to know if there's any way to get out of here as soon as possible. I have to practice the violin. If I practice one day less, I will be 3 days behind others. Do you understand? Get me out of here now. You. Natsu. I'm scared. I want the usual. Tsukiyo buried her face between her knees and began to tremble. With a stroking-like movement, Nazuna repeatedly combed Tsukiyo's hair with her fingers. After a while, Tsukiyo seemed to regain her composure and her body stopped shaking. In this situation of no water and food, if we are locked up for a couple more days, we will die sooner or later. Maybe this is the intention of the murderer. They plan to lock me up until the Black Challenge time limit passes, so that they can escape completely. I have to think. In order to survive, I have to think. If it were Kirigiri-chan, she would have been the first to do so. For us detectives, this is our only weapon. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying, don't you? Yuyona-sama. Like she said, there must be hints that would allow me to come up with an answer. I must think it over again. We were not locked up here by accident or chance, but by the murderer's plan. The murderer knew that we would come back to this room. Speaking of which, why did we come back to this room? All right, it's to check the body, so the murderer shouldn't have had a hard time expecting us to do that. However, the ever-important dead body is missing. Why did the body disappear? How did it disappear? Maybe if I can solve this mystery, I can find a way out of this room. After all, the place where the body disappeared is this room, so thinking about it won't be pointless. Right? Kirigiri-chan? First of all, there is no doubt that Takasaki died in this room. It is also true that the blood that flowed from her head had dyed the carpet dark red. Yet not a single trace of it can be found now. How much labor and time would have taken to move the body out of this room? I suddenly remembered the rack cart I used to transport the Virgin Mary. As long as there are tools of that kind, the body can be moved relatively easily. Lift the body up on the rack, leave the room, walk down the corridor, and put the body down in a place where it's not easy to see. To hide the body, the place that comes to mind is probably under the pews of the chapel or in the toilet stalls. Just about 10 minutes is enough. The problem lies in the bloodstains left on the carpet. How long did it take to wash off the blood that had penetrated the carpet without leaving a trace? I got up from my chair and checked again where the body was before. I touched the red carpet. There is nothing, not even the feeling of wetness, let alone blood. Although the carpet is red, the color of this red is very different from that of human blood, so I should be able to tell it apart. To wash off that much blood, I think it should have taken a lot of water, detergent, and time. But now there are no traces of washing. What's going on? I muttered to myself, with a high enough sound so that Nazuna and Tsukiyo could also hear. If there are special cleaning tools, it should only take about an hour to completely remove the bloodstains, right? Nazuna said while combing Tsukiyo's hair. An hour. I rescued Nazuna and Tsukiyo from the coffins and went back to this room with them. I think it was less than an hour, so it should be too early. But our enemy is that organization. They might have prepared some kind of machine in advance that can wash the blood clean. And then completely dry it. In this case, it's possible to finish it under an hour. But this has a condition, that is, Samadar-san must never come back to this room halfway through, right? If Samadar-san came back to check the body early on a whim, the murderer's plan would have gone bankrupt. Ah, true, they might have bumped into me by accident. I don't think the murderer could have made such a dangerous plan. The bare minimum is saying it took 5 minutes to move the body and 10 minutes to clean the carpet. Is this even possible? What about replacing the entire carpet? Nazuna said. Roll the carpet to the edge of the room, while at it, roll the body in there, and then move it somewhere else. As long as 2 layers of carpet are laid beforehand, then there is no need to lay another one. I see. It's going to be heavy, but this way the body can be transported away in about 5 minutes. It's just that, although this is my idea, I think it would be wiser to kill in advance to prevent the bleed out, or to lay something on the ground, so even if the blood flows out, the carpet won't get dirty, rather than go through such trouble. Yeah, indeed. Realistically speaking, I don't think there's any way to get rid of a bloody corpse in just a few minutes. That's right. I think so too. If such a thing was possible. I can only assume there was some more daring mechanism. What do you mean by mechanism? For example, the entire floor being flipped around a horizontal axis, like flipping a coin upside down. This is a mechanism that I had seen on the Norman's Hotel before. By using this method, it's not impossible to make the body disappear in an instant. What a bold trick, Nazuna said with a surprised expression. In this case, what about the desk and chairs? They don't look like they are fixed to the floor. There would be no need to worry about them falling if they were fixed even if the floor is turned over. You can just move the table and chairs out of the room before you activate the mechanism? Ah, yes, it wouldn't even take 5 minutes, maybe just one to finish. A bright smile returned to Nazuna's face. If this reasoning is correct, there should be a gap between the wall and the floor. I bent down by the wall and looked at the seam between the wall and the floor. Nothing. For the floor to flip upside down, there must be a gap between the wall and the floor. But no matter how I looked at it, I couldn't find any unnatural gaps, nor did I see any rubber or sponges filling the gaps. No, this isn't the correct answer. They don't do things this simple. I thought this is a good direction at first. As expected, they won't use tricks they showed us before. But I think there's still some progress made. It seems that some whimsical mechanism may have been used. I didn't think about this before. Those guys will do anything for a technique. They don't have any common sense to speak of. I sighed as I sat down on the chair again. I don't know what mechanism is in this Libra Girls Academy, but I should be able to find hints in everything I have witnessed so far. I listed the things that happened here and the situations that felt unnatural to me one by one. The black cloak was standing beside me when I woke up. Answer, they were waiting for me to wake up in order to let me witness the technique. B, my glasses were gone. Answer, to delay the chase. C, all doors were open. Answer, to make it easier for them to escape. D, after the black cloak entered the room with the coffins, I tried to open the door, but the door would not open, and it took a while before it did. E, the black cloak disappeared into the room with the coffins. F, the two coffins contained the tied Tokatsu Nazuna and not Tsukiyo. G, the key to unlock the shackles of Nazuna and Tsukiyo was hung around the neck of the Virgin Mary in the chapel. H, when I released Nazuna and Tsukiyo and went to check the body together, the body had disappeared. 1, we are trapped in the room where the body was before. The one that seems to have more clues to follow is D. Although there was no lock that could lock the door could not be opened at that time. At first I thought the black cloak was holding the door from the inside, but as soon as the door opened, I stepped into the room and the black cloak had disappeared. Also, I didn't find anything that got used to jam the door, so it's a mystery why the door wouldn't open. I don't think it was just a busted door or something like that. Maybe it's the same as what I just thought. There's a mechanism in these rooms, and the doors won't open when the mechanism is activated. Is it possible that this is the case? Let's say it's a structure like an elevator. The door can't open when the elevator compartment inside moves. I stood up abruptly and walked to the door. I had already checked it many times before, but I decided to double check it again. The door slides left and right along the rail on the ground, and now it can't be opened at all. There seems to be a door closer installed from the inside, and the door will automatically close when opened, but pushing the door to the very end and pressing it will keep it open. There are no handles on the door that can be held with hands, but a groove that can be fastened with the fingers. There is no lock or keyhole on the door, but for some reason it seems to be locked. The interior side does not have a rail for the door to slide, so we can generally assume that the rail would be on the corridor side. If something got stuck on the rail on the corridor side, then the door won't open. We've always assumed that the black cloak did just that, but is that really what happened? I experienced the same thing in the room with the coffins. Nothing was jamming the door, but the door was locked. Speaking of which, was there really a door slider on the side of the corridor? I recalled the situation of the room with the coffins. The rail over there was not on the corridor side, but on the interior side. This room has the exact same structure as the coffins room, but for some reason, there is no rail on this side of the door. What on earth is going on? What if there are no rails on both the interior side and the corridor side? When the sliding door is opened, where does the door go? It's easy to understand by imagining an elevator door, with the door tucked into the wall, that is, embedded. If the door of this room is of this structure. What's wrong, Samadare-san? I feel like I may have discovered something important. It's not my role to do this, so I myself don't know what to do. Pull yourself together. Aren't you a detective? Tsukiyo raised her head and said. We're all depending on you. Oh, okay. I stepped away from the door and walked aimlessly around the room. Even with clues, there is no way to move forward. If Kirigiri-chan was here, she would have definitely came up with an answer right away. I'm so sick of my own stupidity, I can't believe a loser like myself is pretending to be a detective. I remembered what Kirigiri said when we parted. Be careful of Libra. Nazuna and Tsukiyo are not Libra. I think they shouldn't be the murderer. In this case, where is the Libra murderer? Libra? Huh? Could it be? Hey, do you two like fortune-telling and the like? Fortune-telling as in constellations? Nazuna asked. Yes, the kind that is sometimes shown in morning TV programs. Girls naturally like it a lot. Tsukiyo said. Do you want us to read for you? No, that's not what I meant. Do you know how to say Libra in English? Well, Libra. Libra. That's it. Nazuna and I called out at the same time. So that's how it is. I see. I understand. I understand what the secret of this Libra Girls Academy is, the mystery of the disappearance of the black cloak in the body, and the reason why we are locked up. I understand it all. It's January 12th, now for the midday news. January 11th, 8 p.m. Claiming that she is a relative of Itagaki and learned about his work. As she expected, Itagaki was in charge of a seminar. Then she went straight to the university and talked to a few random students, asking them if they knew any students in Itagaki's seminar. It only took her a few minutes, and she successfully got a list of 5 students. She got in touch with these 5 people and called the students who were able to come out right away to meet her at the steakhouse. Of course, the steak was used to catch the students on the hook. Her idea was very simple. She thought that as long as these students are boys, she can just use meat as bait to attract them, and the plan worked quite well. A student who could be fished out with steak on the day the professor responsible for guiding them was burned to death would be a naive person. It is better to get information out of someone with such low heart hurdles. I'm sorry for calling you out at this time. You probably are busy because of the incident. Nah, it's alright. It's not me who is busy. It's the university staff. Of course, the research team will definitely take a break for a while, but I heard that normal classes at the university will start tomorrow. Is that so? It seems that Itagaki-sensei was well loved by the students. Yeah, I guess. Shindo is obviously a bit vague. Era, wasn't he? Well. Mizuyama read the negative emotions from Shindo's expression. He must know something. As I already said on the phone, I don't think Itagaki-sensei died because of a simple fire. I think there is a secret behind the incident and I want to know that truth. The police seem to have concluded that the cause was a fire, and they wouldn't continue the investigation, but in this case, the truth may have been covered up. No matter how small it is, if you know something, please tell me. This is also to let the truth be revealed to the world. Mizuyama told him enthusiastically. It's a lot easier to extract information and gossip by giving a good cause like for the truth. Okay. Although a lot of what I know is rumors, I will tell everything I can. Shindo agreed at once, and there was even a bit of determination in his expression, as if he had already made up his mind. Not expecting him to be so simple, it made Ms. Uyama almost feel a little guilty. Thank you very much. Ms. Uyama lowered her head and said, let's talk while we eat, please feel free to do so. Then let's dig in. Shindo couldn't wait to plunge his knife into the steak on the plate, his eyes glowing, and he chewed it. Although Ms. Uyama revealed her identity to him, she did not mention a word about the black challenge. She thought it would be best not to give any unnecessary impressions if she is just asking for information. What did you study in Itagaki-sensei's research group? Itagaki-sensei's major was ancient European history, and my main research is Celtic culture. What about medieval history? I studied it as basic knowledge, but it's not within my specialty. Do you know where Itagaki-sensei's body was found? Wasn't it a museum that exhibited torture devices? I've more or less heard of this place before, but didn't it close down long ago? Yes, to be precise, it's the Museum of Medieval Western Europe Torture Devices. I think it was a very familiar place for Itagaki-sensei. I've never heard of this before. Medieval and Western Europe are fine, but torture devices should be completely outside his specialty. Shindo said as he put the steak into his mouth. Speaking of torture devices, you are thinking of the Iron Maiden, right? You've heard of it? I'm sure everyone has seen it in pictures or photos at least once in their lives, right? It's very impactful. Is that so? If you don't mind, I'll treat you to this one too. Ms. Uyama handed her steak plate to Shindo. Really? You don't mind if I eat it? Please enjoy. All right then. Man, I'm really happy. I can't believe I get to enjoy such a delicious meal with a beautiful young woman. You're good at flattery. This isn't flattery. Miss, do you have a boyfriend? So about Itagaki-sensei. Ms. Uyama changed the subject. I won't beat around the bush. Have you ever heard of anyone having a grudge against him? To be honest, I think there are a lot of people out there who resent their professors. Shindo's hands holding the knife and fork stopped moving. Is that so? I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but it's true, so it shouldn't matter. Itagaki-sensei had done a lot of bad things in writing papers and research works. Frauds and violations were commonplace. I heard that he even copied his students' research reports in its entirety page for page. No matter how lax the screening process might be, there should always be a sense of morals. As a researcher, his morals were low. However, I feel that there is some difference between the reason why someone has a grudge against him and this. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that the professor once took the entire thesis of a co-researcher and published it as his own work. And that's not all, the co-researcher was going to report him, so the professor killed the co-researcher and disguised it as a suicide. To be honest, I thought it was a pretty good made-up lie, and I didn't take it to heart when I first heard of it. Itagaki-sensei did this kind of thing in the past. I don't know how much of this is true and how much is not. But you know what they say, anything is possible. When I think back on the professor's usual comments, I wonder if there might have been something to it. Shindo's plate is already empty. If things continue like this, he would probably need 2 or 3 more plates of steak, but Ms. Uyama didn't have much time to spare, so she began to explore the core part. Do you know who was the co-researcher that was said to have been killed and then disguised as a suicide? I don't know, but I can point you to someone who does. Please tell me the contact information of this person. Shindo started fiddling with his phone, looking through his address book. Found him, it's this guy. I can talk to him for you if you want. That would be great. If you could please ask him if I can meet him later. Okay. In return, miss, if you don't have a boyfriend. I'm going to the bathroom. Ms. Uyama stood up and walked quickly to the bathroom. The targets chosen by the black challenges are those who have committed crimes but have not been punished and are still living their usual lives. Those who have been directly or indirectly harmed by their crimes become avengers to participate in the game. It is because of this layout that finding the perpetrators from the motive can be a valid strategy. If Itagaki really committed murder before and was not held accountable, then it's conceivable that the matter could possibly be related to this black challenge. A relative, a friend or a lover of the co-researcher who was killed and then disguised as suicide may be the challenger this time. When Ms. Uyama returned to her seat, Shindo was already eating dessert. I've already contacted him. The man's name is Karasuba Kariyasu, and he said he will be waiting in a cafe near the university. After leaving the steakhouse, Ms. Uyama said goodbye to Shindo. The distance from there to the meeting place is not too far, so Ms. Uyama decided to walk there and think about it in the meantime. The road, lined with alternating trees and streetlights, stretched straight ahead. The traffic in the lane broke off. She came back to her senses and found that there is no one on the sidewalks either. It's hard to believe that walking through a residential area like this could sometimes lead to such a moment. Although it's not yet the dead of night, the people on the street seems to have all disappeared, and the surroundings are completely silent. In the midst of this silence, Ms. Uyama noticed a person following her. She stopped and looked back. There is a young boy standing in the shadow of a street tree. He is encased in a feathery shadow, from which it's also clear that this young boy is very much a human being. He knows how to blend himself in the darkness extremely naturally. There is no doubt that he is on her side. Ms. Uyama's intuition told her so. At the same time, an indescribable sense of threat swept through her body. From his height and body shape, it can be inferred that he is a child, but the scary thing is that there is no trace of a human breath from him. It's as if the boy has appeared from another world. It's doubtful whether he should be called a boy or not. He is neither a boy nor a girl, but something else. Who are you? Ms. Uyama said to him in an alert posture. You finally noticed me. He said. He flicked a coin into the air with his thumb and caught it, repeating this action over and over again. It took a lot of effort to get you to spot me. Do you have something to do with me? You are following the case very enthusiastically. Is there any reason? Just out of academic interests. Really, the boy said, flicking the coin high in the air. I'm here to advise you, those people don't want to add extra victims. What? Please don't do anything extra. He said so, and instead of catching the falling coin with his hand, he raised his leg high and kicked the coin towards the driveway. The coin flew through the air like a shooting star. The coin landed on the street, and at the same time, a car drove past with its headlights on. Immediately after, more cars also drove past one by one. When Ms. Uyama turned her eyes back, there was no one in the place where the boy was standing. Only then did Ms. Uyama realize that the scene of people coming and going on the sidewalk had resumed at some point, and she is the only one standing in place. What in the world happened just now? Maybe that was someone from the Crime Victims Relief Committee. Was this a warning? Was he trying to say that the problem was that she is not the detective in charge but is still conducting the investigation? However, as Kirigiri Kyoko and the others said, the act of the detective calling in their companions shouldn't be considered a foul in itself, and Ms. Uyama was mentally prepared to take this step. Ms. Uyama regained her spirit and continued going to the cafe. Karasuba Kariyasu was already seated inside the cafe. He is putting both his hands on the table and staring blankly. His cheeks are unusually sunken, his hair is long and completely unkempt, he is wearing a cheap coat and a loose-collar t-shirt. Even with no knowledge of psychology, it's evident from his appearance that he is mentally unstable. As soon as Ms. Uyama stepped into the cafe, the guy noticed her immediately and raised his face. Ms. Uyama made up her mind and walked toward him. Are you Karasuba-san? She asked, and he nodded with burning eyes and a look of someone ready to fight. Maybe she found the right person. I heard that you want to pry about Shoko? His voice was calm. Ms. Uyama nodded, sat down on the chair opposite him, and ordered a cup of milk tea from the waiter. She wanted to introduce herself and explain why she is pursuing the case before the milk tea is served, but Karasuba spoke before her. Shoko was 3 years older than me. When I was in undergraduate studies, she was already in postgraduate. We met in the university library and started dating. This is the first time I've told others that I've been in a relationship with her, and Itagaki-sensei didn't know about it either. Why are you choosing to tell me at a time like this? Why? A bitter smile appeared at the corner of Karasuba's mouth. I thought I should let you know in advance. You would have asked anyway, right? Yes. Please continue. Shoko was an assistant to Itagaki-sensei at the time, and often helped him collect materials and write articles. One day, she received a work that allowed her to sign her name as a co-researcher for the first time. But the contents of the paper were almost entirely related to her personal study of ancient history. Itagaki-sensei said that adding his name will make it easier for the paper to be recognized by the university. Well, as was often the case, when the paper was completed, Itagaki-sensei published it as his own. After Shoko knew that she was deceived, she just laughed regretfully and said that she was being naive, but when she learned that Itagaki-sensei had done this kind of misconduct many times before, she gradually began to think that she should not just let him off the hook. After investigating, she learned that there are many irrationalities in Itagaki-sensei's papers, but for some reason, the university turned a blind eye to them every time, and they weren't rare cases. Shoko thought that such crimes were harmful to the whole university. Shoko-san was the kind of person with a strong sense of justice, right? When Shoko said this, Karasuba turned his eyes to her for an instant, as if glaring at her. His expression seems to say, what do you know? After that, it's pretty much as you imagine. Shoko went to Itagaki-sensei and claimed that she was going to report his previous misconducts, and she was killed by Itagaki-sensei because of that. Was she really killed? It wasn't treated as a case? Yes, because she was determined to have committed suicide. How was she killed? Itagaki-sensei put sleeping pills in the coffee in his lab, made her drink it, then dragged her to the women's bathroom in the corner of the school while she was asleep, where he killed her by creating hydrogen sulfide gas. What about the evidence of this murder? Evidence? There's a lot of it. The sleeping pills that Itagaki-sensei used, and the security camera footage of him buying medicines at the pharmacy. If there is so much evidence, then why did the police still treat that case as a suicide? The initial investigation concluded that she committed suicide and did not continue at all. Then you collected all this evidence yourself? That doesn't matter. Karasuba said in a trance. It must have been given to him by the Crime Victims Relief Committee. In order to incite people's revenge, this organization will expose the crimes committed by the targets and inform the challenger of the truth. Even in some lesser-known cases, they are able to identify the perpetrators. Although there is no way to prove whether their answer is correct, for the Avengers, this is the only thing their hearts can rely on. I understand the situation. This Itagaki-sensei had died in a fire at noon today, did you know? Yes. Karasuba has been staring at his fingertips with icy eyes, but at this moment, a very brief smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then I would like to ask, where were you at around 1 p.m. and what were you doing? Checking for an alibi? Karasuba looked at Ms. Uyama. Your question is like the kind the police would ask, but the police never came to me. I was working part-time as usual at 1 p.m. at a nearby convenience store. My shift was from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., with rest periods of 30 minutes from 11 to 11:30 a.m. and from 2 to 2:30 p.m. So you do have an alibi. Ain't that right? If you go to the store and ask, my colleague should testify for me, and the security cameras too. Karasuba said with a smug look on his face. It seems that he is quite confident in his tricks. Birthday? August 30th, why? It's past 9:30 p.m. already. Although a lot of information have been collected, it's still difficult to say that the crime have been fully grasped now. Not sure how the other detectives are doing now, maybe someone has already solved their case. For Ms. Uyama, it doesn't matter whether the case is solved or not, what she needs is information. What she wants to know most is what the perpetrator went through to get in touch with the Crime Victims Relief Committee, and how he got to the point of committing the crime. Even if she knows this, she does not think she would feel empathy for him. Comparing him with herself would not give him a get-out-of-jail-free card, let alone redemption. Yet she is still very interested in it, perhaps this is also for an academic purpose. How did the perpetrator commit the crime? With little time left, the desire to know grew. Ms. Uyama immediately stopped a taxi that drove by and headed for the Museum of Medieval Western Europe Torture Devices. She got off the car in the residential area and walked to her destination. The museum scene at night, a modernity silhouette melted into the darkness, making it more and more eerie. There are none left of the media and police vehicles that had been parked in rows during the day. No one was in sight, and no cordon seems to have been set up. Convenient. Ms. Uyama went past the building and through the courtyard. The backyard is like a void in a quiet residential area, and the scenery in front of her suddenly became an idyllic meadow. However, the Iron Maiden standing on the top of the gentle hill remained the same, and the headless statue looked like an icon of a demon. Ms. Uyama checked the Iron Maiden again, and found nothing worth mentioning. Ms. Uyama walked down the hill and observed the prefabricated hut that was on fire. The cordon here had also been removed, probably because the cause of the fire had been determined, and the police don't think it was necessary to continue the investigation. She looked inside the hut through the window. When the body was found, the window was locked from the inside. Since it's an ordinary crescent lock, it's not difficult to lock the window from the outside as long as there was a thin thread or the like, and using the little gap after the window was closed. But she didn't think that 140 million yen was spent on this level of technique. There was not a single footprint around the prefabricated hut, including the victims. Which means that all preparations were made before the snow accumulated. The snowfall in this area lasted from the night of the 10th to the early morning of the 11th, and the fire started around 1 p.m. on the 11th. Therefore, it's likely that this is a murder case using a timed ignition device. To secure an alibi, the criminal was far away, rather than around the hut. In other words, the ignition device must be a long-range automatic type. Is this possible? It's a difficult problem. But there's a clue. The murder weapon written in the challenge letter is the Iron Maiden, which means that the ignition device must have something to do with the headless girl. Ms. Uyama looked back at the hill in front of the prefabricated hut, and the outline of the Iron Maiden could be barely seen a little higher in the line of sight. Further ahead, the museum building can be seen. Ah, so that's what happened. The composition of the murder was taking shape in Ms. Uyama's mind like a building blueprints. No doubt. It's the only answer. However, solid proof is still needed. Ms. Uyama passed through the middle of the courtyard, approached the museum, and observed the situation inside from the window. The exterior walls of the building are all glass, so the inside can be clearly seen from the outside, but Ms. Uyama did not find what she is looking for. The thing she is looking for should still be on the upper floors. Is there any way to get in? Ms. Uyama lifted the hem of her kimono and pulled out an iron pipe from the holster on her thigh. She held the iron pipe high in both hands and broke the glass in front of her. Ms. Uyama will lie if necessary and won't hesitate to use force. That is her style. The museum has been closed for a long time, and there is a good chance that the contract with the security company has expired, but in any case, she planned to finish her business in a few minutes, so there is no need to worry about being detected. Ms. Uyama put the iron pipe back into the holster and sneaked into the cold corridor. A staircase appeared at the end of the dimly lit corridor. She climbed up the stairs to the upper floors. The second floor. No, it should be higher. She climbed up to the third floor in one breath. She entered the exhibition room on the third floor. Although a whole wall is made of glass, it's almost pitch black because it's nighttime. There is a smell similar to an old warehouse. Ms. Uyama took out the pen-shaped flashlight from her chest and looked around. A figure suddenly appeared in front of her. Ms. Uyama almost screamed. However, upon closer inspection, it's not a person, but a set of Western armor for viewing. This full-body armor seems to have been used in wars of medieval Europe. It's not clear whether it's a real one or a replica, but with the support of the display table and the display stand, it looks like a man standing there in armor. Ms. Uyama suddenly remembered the armored samurai she saw in the Takeda Haunted Mansion case last night. Could this be a Western version of that thing? There are 5 sets of armors neatly lined up by the window. The patterns on the torso, the luster of the metal, the shapes of the hand and leg armor are each slightly different. Probably due to the different times and countries, but the common point is that they all are holding swords in their right hands and large silver shining shields in their left hands. They all are facing the window and looking like they are ready to meet the enemy coming from outside. But the strange thing is, they all have no helmets. 5 headless knights. They too are headless icons. Unknown, Kirigiri Kyoko. Since the person who came to the Twin Ability Development Institute was Kirigiri Kyoko, Tsutsumi's criminal plan had to be massively adjusted. If the previous plan was based on passive defense, then the future plan will be to actively attack the opponent. It doesn't matter if the means are despicable. As long as the final victory is achieved, the game will give the huge sum of $561 million and a new life. It's worth the risk. Kirigiri Kyoko was a tough opponent to deal with, but in the end, she's just a kid, her body is very fragile, and can't compare with adults. The car that Tsutsumi and Kirigiri were riding in was severely damaged in the crash, but Tsutsumi was only slightly injured. And Kirigiri, though not much injuries, fell into a coma and is unconscious. Kill her. For a while he had this thought, letting his emotions get the better of him, but he soon realized that it would be a bad idea. Even if he kills her, the game won't be over. His real opponent is not Kirigiri Kyoko, but Samidare Yui. If so, then she should be used more effectively. He wanted to avoid a head-on confrontation with the summoned detective as much as possible. The main purpose of the challenge was to bluff his opponent into withdrawing from the game. From the moment the detective chose to participate in the game, the odds of winning became very small. At most, it can only be delayed for a while. So how to fight and win against the summoned detective? As per the original intent, let the opponent quit the game. There is a tool in hand that can help with this. Kirigiri Kyoko using her as a hostage to negotiate with the summoned detective. It could be assumed that she and Samidare Yui have a very close relationship. If it's for her, maybe Samidare Yui will agree to negotiate. Will she quit the game to save her life? Or will she abandon her and continue the game? What will Samidare Yui choose? Tsutsumi glanced at Kirigiri, who was sleeping in the rear seat. Her hands and feet are tied with ropes, and her body is covered with several layers of tape. It looks like she hasn't awakened yet. The problem now is that he must find a safe place to hide before Samidare Yui finds out about this. A safe place. Right, let's go there. That place should be safer than anywhere else. Libra Girls Academy, Samidare Yui. What exactly do you mean by the secret of Libra Girls Academy? Nazuna and Tsukiyo both stared at me with round eyes. I sat down beside them both and showed them my notes. Libra means scales, right? Simply put, this whole academy is a scale. What do you mean? Both were dumbfounded. Look, I think the structure should be like this. The chapel in the center of the building is the fulcrum. It extends from the middle to the left and right, and there are 2 circular rooms, which are the weighing platforms like a scale plate. Wait a minute. Tsukiyo said, looking around. This room is a weighing platform? You mean we're on a scale now? That's what I mean. Unbelievable. I can't believe it as much as I'm about to leak. Tsukiyo shook her head desperately, her hairband was about to fall off because of that. To be precise, the place where we are now is not on the scale, but inside the scale. This scale does not use a plate, but a box, and we are now locked inside the box. I explained while drawing a diagram. I think the structure of this room should be similar to that of an elevator. The elevator moves up and down in a circular column. Suppose the scale is underground when it's lowered to the lowest point, and is on the ground floor when it reaches the highest point. Look, isn't this like an elevator that moves back and forth between the underground and the ground level? The corridor is located on the ground floor and can only be accessed that floor. So, if it's an ordinary elevator, people can enter the elevator compartment only when it's on the ground floor. But this is not the case for this one. When the elevator compartment is on the first floor, the ground floor of the tower will form a space as big as a room that we can enter, and this space becomes a room. With exactly the same structure as the room we are in. You mean that there is a room on top of the elevator that is exactly the same as the inside of the elevator? That's what I mean. I nodded to answer Nazuna's question. By the way, we are now inside the elevator that descended to the underground, so the view on its ceiling is exactly the same as what we see now. I'm totally confused. Tsukiyo pouted and said, how about you use the Gospel of Matthew to make an analogy? I can't do that. If we simply just think of it as a weighing platform, we can either stand on the platform or go inside it. The view we see would be the same. Inside the platform is. Just imagine it's a big platform. It's very big, like a boxy platform that's empty inside. It boils down to this. When the scale is lowered, there is an identical room above and inside. When you enter the room from the corridor, you will stand on top of the box. When the scale is raised, the rooms are in an overlapping state, and only one room exists. When you enter the room from the corridor, you will be inside the box. The 2 rooms on the left and right are linked to each other across the chapel. That's how it's constructed. Because this is a scale, if one side sinks, the other side rises. So, the reason why the rooms move up and down is because someone is operating a switch? Tsukiyo asked. No, it's like a scale. Whichever side is heavier among the left and right sinks. Which side is heavier? You mean the total weight of the people in these rooms? That's right. Then what if we were on top of the box when a large group of people suddenly poured into the opposite room and this side rose up quickly? Would we be crushed? No, in order to prevent this, of course, there is space left in advance, a safety measure, as the desk and chair can prove. I think the space left should be at least as high as that desk. Then, we are now inside the box, descended to the underground, and we can't go to the corridor in this state. Is that what you mean? Yep. I pointed to the door at the entrance. There's only a wall behind that door now, so it's blocked and can't be opened, and it's useless to pry it open. I think the structure of that door is the same as an elevator door. When the rooms are on the ground level, the doors are double planed. A door in the room and a door in the corridor. The twin doors are designed to be retracted into the rails in conjunction with each other. If I had been calmer and more observant, I would have noticed that the thickness of the door had changed in that. There was a small gap at the doorway as I went in and out of the room several times. Unfortunately, I didn't think of this until I got locked up. When we are inside the box, there is no gap between the indoor wall and the floor in this case. But if we are on top of the box, we should be able to find a gap between the wall and the floor if we look closely, and the top of the box should be suddenly more spacious. In the end, the murderer in the black cloak was able to disappear from under my nose, make the corpse disappear, and lock us all up, all using this structure. What do you mean? Let me start from the beginning. The order of events is very important in this case. I pointed to the diagram. First of all, for the sake of convenience, let's take the chapel as the center. The cylinder on the right is the side where I woke up, and the cylinder on the left is the side where Nazuna and Tsukiyo were placed in the coffins. Is this okay? Yeah. Tsukiyo and Nazuna nodded at the same time. The scales rise or fall depending on the difference in weight between the left side and right side of it. This is the basic principle. Let's consider the initial state based on this premise. Here it is. In terms of numbers, the cylinder on the right had an extra person, so in terms of weights, the cylinder on the right was in a sinking state. In case you're wondering, I also considered the weight of the coffins, but I still think the cylinder on the right was heavier. Yes, and you look pretty heavy too. Oh, maybe? Even if the weight of the coffins is overestimated, let's say a coffin of 15 kilograms. Then the cylinder on the right is still heavier. Nazuna said. Anyway, let's say that was the case. If it was like this, the murderer and I were standing on top of the elevator of the right cylinder, because if they and I were inside the box, we would not have been able to get out to the corridor. What about us? Tsukiyo asked. The cylinder elevator on the left was in a raised state, so naturally we were also inside the elevator, right? No, you were sleeping in the coffins on top of the elevator. As I said earlier, the room should have been squashed, but there is still a little space left. If you think about it this way, the reason you were put in the coffins is also clear, so that your heads would not hit the ceiling, and not having to worry about you knowing the secret of the rooms. Wow. I feel chills just imagining it. Tsukiyo said in a trembling voice. Nazuna rubbed her body to warm her up. But why did the murderer put the coffins on top of the elevator? Just think about what actually happened next. You will understand why they put you on top of the elevator. That time. After I woke up, I saw the black cloak and chased after them. The black cloak ran straight towards the cylinder on the left, and I did witness them entering the room. However, after I entered the room, the black cloak disappeared, and there were two coffins side by side in the room. First, when I chased the black cloak out of the rooms looked like this. Because the black cloak and I left the room, the cylinder on the right became much lighter, so the balance of the scales got completely reversed, but it didn't move immediately. If there was a reason, it was because the door of the left cylinder was still open. Elevators don't move when its doors are open, right? I believe it's the same principle. Part of the reason why the black cloak opened the door beforehand when escaping was, of course, to ease their escape, but most importantly, to temporarily stop the scales from moving up and down. Aha. Then what? Next is this. The black cloak went inside the elevator in the left cylinder, closed the door, the scales began to invert, and the doors could not be opened while the scales were moving up and down. And that's why the door was locked when I tried to enter the room. I see, it's the same as an elevator. Nazuna said with amazement. Next is when we met. When I entered the room, the down movement of the room had already started, and the black cloak was hidden underground, so the black cloak seemed to have disappeared. If I had checked the room more carefully at that time, maybe I could have discovered the secret earlier, and I could have trapped the black cloak underground as well. It couldn't be helped in that situation. Thank you, Natsu-chan. And sorry for being too much at that time. Why do you only apologize to Natsu? What about me? I'm sorry. Forget it. This way, several questions have been answered. D. After the black cloak entered the room with the coffins, I tried to open the door, but the door would not open, and it took a while before it did. Answer. The security lock was activated because the room was moving up and down. E. The black cloak disappeared into the room with the coffins. Answer. They used the scales mechanism to move underground. F. The two coffins contained the tied Tokatsu Nazuna and not Tsukiyo. Answer. In order to make the scales mechanism work, heavy objects were needed, and they would also play the scapegoat role for the murderer. You mean we are heavy objects? That's rude. Tsukiyo frowned. Yes, and you also played the role of the suspects as well. In fact, I did doubt whether one of you might be the black cloak. Don't be ridiculous, we are 100% victims. That murderer who caused us so much misery will surely be punished by God. Speaking of which, Nazuna suddenly remembered something and said. When I was in the coffin, I first felt my body float up slightly, and then I woke up. It felt somewhat similar to a slight earthquake. Samador-san appeared after that. Now that I think about it, that might have been the moment when the room moved down. I didn't feel it at all. Tsukiyo said smugly. After that, I left the room for a while to find the key that can unlock your handcuffs and shackles, and explore the inside of the building. For some reason, the keys for your handcuffs and shackles was hung around the neck of the Virgin Mary. Now that I think about it, that was one of the means to effectively use the scales mechanism. Oh right, you brought the statue of the Virgin Mary there on purpose. Yes, because I couldn't take the chain off the Virgin Mary's neck, I didn't break her, because no matter what, I can't imagine myself destroying the statue of the Virgin Mary. So, I decided to take the whole statue. It just so happens that there was a rack cart with rollers next to it. Right, the statue of the Virgin Mary is also a heavy object. Nazuna noticed something and said. That's it. The weight came into play after we all left the room. If there was no statue of the Virgin Mary, the moment we leave the room, there will only be two coffins and the black cloak in the cylinder on the left, and at the same time, the body of Takesaki-san in the cylinder on the right, then it will be a one-to-one situation on the scales. Takesaki-san is not very fat, but the murderer was probably a little worried. They thought, maybe the scales will invert, so they decided to let me bring extra weight in there, but this was mostly just to be on the safe side. Maybe the murderer is a small person. Nazuna said. Yeah, I think so too. G. The key to unlock the shackles of Nazuna and Tsukiyo was hung around the neck of the Virgin Mary in the chapel. Answer. The murderer used the statue of the Virgin Mary as a heavy object to keep the scales stable. They hung the key of the handcuffs around the neck of the Virgin Mary and tempted me to carry her into the room. Afterwards, we went to the cylinder on the right to check Takesaki-san's body, right? Tsukiyo said. When I opened the door, I didn't know why the corpse disappeared. But as long as you know the mechanism, it doesn't. Seem unbelievable, right? When we went to the cylinder on the right, the elevator went up, and the corpse became lying above on the ceiling of the room. H. When I released Nazuna and Tsukiyo and went to check the body together, the body had disappeared. Answer. The body was placed on top of the elevator. When I came to this room for the second time, the room moved upward due to the scales mechanism. We looked inside the elevator and mistakenly thought the body was missing. The three of us entered the cylinder on the right, and the scales got inverted. In hindsight, I started feeling a little dizzy after entering the room, which may have been because the room was moving. Really? I didn't feel it at all. Tsukiyo tilted her head and said. 1. We are trapped in the room where the body was before. Answer. The room has sunk due to our weight, and there is only a wall behind the door. In the meantime, the black cloak in the cylinder on the left will be able to go out, right? Tsukiyo said while looking at the diagram. Have they escaped by now? Yes. This is the full picture of what happened in Libra Girls Academy. Is it really possible to build a building with a scale structure? Maybe the Crime Victims Relief Committee can really do it. They have characters like Shinsen Makoto and Geka Ryuzoji. It would be strange if they can't do it. The murderer has already escaped, which means we are still trapped in here. I hate this. Even though we solved the puzzle, we still haven't made any progress at all. Oh. Since we already know that there is another room above this one, can we smash the ceiling and climb up? I looked up at the ceiling and said, the height is probably more than 3 meters. Breaking the ceiling, you make it sound so easy. What should we do? Let's try throwing the chair at it. I picked up the small chair that was with the desk and threw it up with all my strength. But the chair fell before it even hit the ceiling. It's not easy to throw something directly above, let alone throwing something that is not shaped for throwing. Even though it is a small chair, there is still no way to make it touch the ceiling. It doesn't seem to work. Then let's try piggybacking. Natsu-chan, try riding on my shoulders. Me? Yeah, Tsukiyo-chan has a lot of problems. I appreciate your concern. I squatted down on the ground, and Nazuna climbed onto my shoulders. I kept my balance and stood up slowly while being careful not to let Nazuna fall off. Whoa. Nazuna became nervous. Well, I can't, it's completely out of reach. It's not yet out of reach, we might reach higher if I jump up in place. I put Nazuna down, and she looks excited, like a toddler playing Takai for the first time. Hey, what are you doing to Natsu? Why is she red? I don't know, I didn't do anything to her. You didn't do anything strange, did you? Who cares about this now? We have to figure out how to get out of here quickly. Breaking the ceiling doesn't seem realistic. Nazuna said, still slumped on the ground. I think there should be a thick layer of wood or concrete in the middle, and it would take at least a few iron tools to break it. Yeah. I said dejectedly. I have a good idea. Tsukiyo suddenly raised her head and said, how about the 3 people jumping together? When we jump up, the weight under our feet becomes 0, right? This way the room becomes lighter, and the scale will be raised, won't it? If we can float in midair after jumping then maybe, but we can only jump up for 0.1 second. I don't think the room will rise up completely in that time. How do you know if we don't try it? Alright, but do you really want to try? I won't do it. Tsukiyo simply refused, fell to the floor, and returned to the curled up position she was in. Nazuna also sat down beside her, silent as if she is lost in thought. A smart person like her have also failed to think of a way to get out of here. I picked up the chair I threw against the ceiling just now and sat down on it. I have to get out of here quickly. I want to go back to my ordinary room. I want to go back to my peaceful ordinary life. Ordinary life, huh? Can I live a life without cases with Kirigiri? Even if we were able to resume our ordinary life, she would probably leave in search of the next case, right? Is there simply no place where we can return to together? I am hungry. Tsukiyo began to complain about her physical needs again. I wonder what time it is now. It seems that even Nazuna has begun to lose her fighting spirit. It's okay, my companions will definitely come to rescue us. We made an agreement to contact each other at noon. If they can't reach me, someone will definitely come to help. How many hours do we have to wait? Don't get our hopes up. Tsukiyo said coldly as she turned her eyes this way. Hey, by the way, I changed the subject. Do you have any clues about the identity of the murderer? We have solved the murder technique, but we still don't know who the murderer is. Is there anyone you know who might have killed Takasaki-san? How could there be? Some perverted kidnapper must have done it, right? If there's such a person among the people I know, then I'll just set off on a pilgrimage right away. Tsukiyo shouted. Then do you know anything about Takasaki-san? Was there any strange rumors about her? Strange rumors? Nazuna shouted. That reminds me, I have heard gossip that when Takasaki-san was in middle school, she drove a girl in her small group who had a good relationship with her to commit suicide. What? I haven't heard of that at all. Because you don't care about your classmates, Tsukiyo-san. Well who else would I care about besides Natsu, Fufu? Tsukiyo-san, you should have a broader perspective. Now even Natsu says that? Just like Dad. So, what about Takasaki-san? I also wasn't very interested in other people's gossip, so I didn't take it seriously. But it seems that Takasaki-san was often bullied by her classmates when she was in middle school, forcing her to give them money, but one day, the target of their bullying shifted from Takasaki-san to another girl. That girl was close to Takasaki-san before. They said that Takasaki-san betrayed her for 100,000 yen. In reality, it was more like they told her that if she brought them 100,000 yen, they would target another girl next time, and she went along with it. As a result, the girl committed suicide. What a depressing story. The rumors got exaggerated day by day, to the point that some people started saying that Takasaki-san was the leader of the bullies, but I don't know what the truth is. That looks like a good enough motive. I said to myself. From the students who were close to the girl who committed suicide or her family, can you think of anyone? As I said before, we weren't very close to Takasaki-san. Is that so? Right, when it comes to Libra, who can you think of? Libra. I don't remember other people's zodiac signs. Fair enough. I know Natsu's zodiac sign. Natsu is a Leo. I'm also a Leo, we match. Oof. I don't know if it's just a delusion, but I feel like Tsukiyo's mood is starting to get a little off. Is it because she has been locked up for so long that her mental state has become a little unstable? All in all, although I don't know the identity of the murderer yet, I've seen through the tricks of the Crime Victims Relief Committee, and the results are not bad. I have to say it was quite a decent performance from someone like me. The current problem is how to get out of here. I leaned against the back of the chair with my arms crossed. At that moment, I felt dizzy for a moment. Is it because I'm too tired? No, this feeling is. Nazuna and I raised our faces and looked at each other. Hey, what? What is it? What happened to both of you? It shook a bit just now. Yes, it certainly did shake. I didn't notice at all. After the dizziness, there was no more movement that could be felt anymore, and I don't even know whether the room is still moving or had stopped. We remained alert, watching and waiting with bated breath. Perhaps the murderer went and returned. For what? To check the situation? I stood up as quietly as possible and took the chair in my hands. This is just in case anything can be used as a weapon. If this room on this side rose up, then the room on the other side have sunk. It would take a considerable amount of weight to sink the other side, so this is definitely not unintentional. Only those who know the mechanism of Libra Girls Academy can do this. That means, the murderer. I motioned for Tsukiyo and Nazuna to step back. The entrance door began to rattle. Here they come. The door opened slowly. The room really did rise up, the door is connected to the corridor, and someone is about to come in. What appeared there? Is a man with a model body type in a fancy suit and sunglasses. Yayada Riji-san? I couldn't help but give a strange shout. Oh hey. Samadar-san, he greeted me in a mundane way as if he has met me by accident on the street. Good morning, are you working on the case? Eh? Oh, yeah, but I don't know what's going on anymore. Why are you here, Yadariji-san? It is a long story. We might as well find a hotel cafe and spend some time chatting about it over breakfast. By the way, are you injured? You look very haggard. That's for sure, I'm exhausted. The two people behind you are the ones involved in the case? Yes. Then let us go have breakfast together. Yadariji smiled lightly. What's happening? Nazuna approached from behind me and said close my ear. Is that guy the black cloak? That's not possible. Do you know him? Not really, he is just a fellow detective. It's weird, if he's not the murderer, how could he possibly know how to move the rooms and let us out? No, it's... Do you have something to discuss? Yadariji said. He stretched out a hand as if intending to escort us. Anyway, how about getting out of this room first? Ah, yes. I replied, then immediately turned around and whispered to Nazuna and Tsukio, it'll be troublesome if we get locked up again. Let's get out of here first, and you two can walk behind me. Nazuna and Tsukio nodded while clinging to each other. Yadariji walked along the corridor. We finally took a step outside the scale plate, but I'm more puzzled than moved. What's happening now seems beyond my comprehension. We kept a distance of about 3 meters from Yadariji and followed him along the corridor. The corridor finally came to an end. Yadariji took a step ahead and walked into the chapel, then turned around and waited for us there. After the distance between us had shortened, he resumed walking. In the next instant, a black shadow entered my field of vision from the left side. The black cloak. I didn't have time to cry out. The black cloak swung the iron pipe they are holding at Yadariji's head. Blood splashed in all directions. I didn't even have time to look away. Yadariji's body went limp and fell to the ground like a dead man. The girls behind me screamed. The hood on the black cloak's head is pressed very low, and they turned to me. Unforgivable. Unforgivable. This murderer. I'm Samidare Yui, I'm the detective. You are not allowed to hurt me. I shouted in the loudest voice possible. If you plan to hurt anyone else, I will stand in your way. If you aren't afraid of falling, then go ahead. I took a step closer to the black cloak, and they took a step back. The chapel is filled with sullen silence. The black cloak and I are confronting each other, each second smelling of blood. The black cloak held up the bloodstained iron pipe to restrain my movement, while continuing to step back. You want to escape? As I said this, the black cloak stopped. They seemed to be hesitating. Isn't the current situation what they expected? This distance can be crossed in 2 steps. I said, pointing to my feet. If you turn around and run, I'll catch you right away. If you attack me, I won't hide, and I'm not afraid of getting hurt. Understand? Either way you lose, so I advise you to give up your struggle and drop that thing. I don't know when we have come to a place very close to the entrance hall. Are they planning to escape? From my perspective, the entrance hall is on the left. Considering the appearance of Yadariji and the reason why the black cloak ran in this direction, it should be because the wooden planks that were sealing the entrance have been removed, and it is no problem to go out now. I focused my attention in that direction. The black cloak might run that way. Meanwhile, behind the black cloak is the corridor leading to the coffin's room, and the black cloak is retreating there step by step. They might escape into the circular room as before and disappear. I already know your tricks, it's useless to run away. I said. Next move is exposing your true identity and your crime. The true identity of the black cloak. I looked at the person in front of me again. This person's body is covered by a wide cloak, but I can still see that they are very short. They should be a woman or a young boy. Who on earth are they? Since this is a puzzle game, I don't think the truth is that someone who has never been seen before is the murderer. But I can't think of anyone who matches the characteristics of the murderer. Could it be that the events at Libra Girls Academy have only just begun, and there will be more murders to come? The black cloak's face is almost completely covered by the hood, but I can see part of their mouth slightly. That mouth grinned. You wouldn't understand anyway, would you? They seem to be mocking me like this. I will not fall for this provocation. In the next moment I had this thought. The black cloak turned around and ran towards the corridor. Ah. 1 step too slow. I kicked the ground. I won't let you escape. I thought so, but the black cloak tripped in front of my eyes and fell on their face. Glasses flew out from inside the hood and rolled on the ground. Glasses? In any case, this is a godsend. I seized the opportunity to pounce on the black cloak, intending to hold them down from behind. Just then, the black cloak rolled to the side, and their face turned upward in an instant. Oh no. A trap? The hood fell off, and my eyes met theirs. The black cloak pulled me by my collar with her left hand and pulled me in, placing a gun-like object she is holding in her right hand against my left chest. Caught you. She said. A familiar voice. A familiar face. You know what this is? It's a nail gun. Once you move, I'll drive a nail into your heart like a straw doll. Why are you? She is one of my detective partners, Mizue Yamasachi. Goodbye bar, Mizue Yamasachi. January 11th, 11:11 p.m. Repeated numbers can be spotted from time to time, but a full 7 arranged together will most likely create a sense of mystery. If only the month was November and not January. 8 is more beautiful than 7 after all. There have always been laws of beauty like the golden ratio or fractals in the world of architecture. Maybe it's kind of an occupational disease to be concerned about repetition. Mizue Yama thought as she looked at the numbers on the LCD screen of her cell phone. At night, the commercial district is empty, and there is a row of lonely streetlights, the number of which also happen to be 7, and their shape is the same as the number 1. A man is running over, the sound of his footsteps breaking the silence on the quiet street. The person who appeared at the corner of the building is Yaki. Huh? What's going on? Why are you here? Yaki slammed on the brakes and stopped in front of Mizue Yama. The case I'm in charge of got solved ahead of schedule. Mizue Yama replied. Why, you're good. Hasn't it only been half a day since we started? That case was no big deal. Really, anyway, enough about that. Did a little kid come this way? He's kid dressed up like he just came back from a piano concert. Piano concert? No, I didn't see him. Mizue Yama had something in mind, but she was too lazy to explain, so she didn't say anything. However, she didn't expect that mysterious child to appear here. Or were they not a human at all? That bastard. I'm suspicious of that kid. You mean he is related to the case? Yeah, someone was killed right under my nose. I know it sounds like a lie, but it really was a locked room murder, just as announced. Please tell me what kind of case it is. No problem, but you were so reluctant before we separated, and now you're really motivated. What's going on? Did something happen? No, just out of a little academic interest. Academic interest, huh? Yaki described what happened at the goodbye bar. When he rushed to the scene after receiving the call from the victim was still alive, but when he opened the door and went in, the victim got killed. The victim got killed right in front of our eyes, there's no doubt about that, but the door was locked, and so was the back door, and of course the killer wasn't in the bar. Someone was killed in a locked room and there was no one inside, isn't it weird? Then I went out through the back door and saw a very suspicious kid there. I don't think that kid had anything to do with it. Mizuyama said with a shrug. I remember that in addition to the knife, the challenge letter also had ropes and toxin written, right? Toxin? Teratoxin, it's North African scorpion toxin. A lethal toxin that can cause breathing difficulties and other symptoms. What? You mean there are scorpions in that bar? Holy shit. I could have died there too. No, I don't think a scorpion was there. If there was, the challenge letter would have included the name of its species. Right. I think the knife was coated with the toxin. The murder weapon was coated? Not drunk or injected. No matter how precise the dosage is, it's still very difficult to calculate the moment the witnesses would come to the crime scene to let the victim die. If Yaki ran into a traffic jam and arrived at the scene an hour late, the trick might not have worked. I guess so. Then why did the murderer specifically apply toxin to the knife? I think it's to ensure that the victim gets killed. It was a pretty big knife, you know? A stab in the back with that thing would kill anyone. There's no need for complicated scorpion toxin. The murderer didn't think so, or rather, they needed the venom to ensure the technique would kill. Hey, you sound like you know the technique. I know. I thought of it in a flash. It's the very common quick kill type. Quick kill? Why does that sound so cool? It's the type where the victim gets killed immediately after the witnesses open the locked room of the crime scene. Haven't you heard of it? Wait a sec, I didn't do it. Yes, I don't think it was you. But I was the only one who approached the victim, and the others didn't even enter through the entrance. And the ballpoint pen was also used? Yes, the victim's hands and feet were tied, correct? Don't you think it's surprising how he managed to call in that state? Why yeah, come to think of it. The victim held the ballpoint pen in his mouth and pressed the call button on the phone. The murderer cleverly exploited the victim's desperate need for help. A rise number was probably entered in the cell phone in advance, and the call was prepared to the point where the victim just had to press the call button to make a call. Moreover, he must have placed an insulator between the keypad and the phone so that the other buttons would not function. Okay then, what about the matchbox? The matchbox has the name of the store written on it, so that the victim can see the words on it and thus know that he is in the goodbye bar. So that means, those props were used to tell us that the victim was still alive and in that place. That's right, this case also has the live broadcast killing pattern. Aren't you an amateur in murder cases? You know quite a lot about them. You think so? Foo-foo. As the two talked, Mizuyama kept moving slowly into a narrow alley, and Yaki followed her unconsciously. And then what? We came to the door of the locked room exactly according to the murderer's plan. What did the murderer do after that? Then he just needed to silently watch the detective open the door. It's a simple mechanical trick, a very classic needle and thread type. It involved using a rope, one end of which was tied to the top of the entrance door, say, above the L-shaped outwardly protruding doorstopper. By the way, I want to ask, that door opened in the direction of the bar, right? Why yeah. The rope starts from the doorstopper, extended deep into the bar, pick up a suitable place in the middle, and finally find a place to tie it. For example, a high stool that can rotate, considering how easy it is to get one there. Wait, I didn't find any ropes when I stepped inside. No, there probably was, you just didn't notice it. First of all, most of the rope was pulled overhead, so it's hard to spot, which is one of the reasons. Another reason is that the lighting in the store was intentionally turned off. The only lighting available in that store was a desk lamp beside the victim lying on the bar. In this case, after entering the store, people's eyes would most likely be fixed on the body, which would be misleading. Damn it. I tried to be careful, but I was completely absorbed by the body in front of me. But what's the point of pulling the rope overhead? There was only one point in pulling the rope overhead, and that was to set the knife directly above the victim. You can probably think of the next step, right? After opening the door, the rope was pulled, and as the rope moved, the knife fell to the victim's back. However, the knife only fell when the door was wide open. If the door was only opened a little, I think the knife wouldn't have fallen, otherwise the murderer who set this mechanism himself wouldn't have been able to get out of the bar. Does that mean at the time, it was because I slammed the door open that the victim died? That's right. However, if the knife fell from a 1-meter height and pierced the victim's body, it might have not necessarily killed the victim. For this reason, the murderer also coated the knife with toxin. Therefore, Yaki, you do not have to blame yourself if the knife was not coated with poison, perhaps the victim wouldn't have died. But I was a puppet who did exactly what the murderer wanted me to do. What kind of a rock and roller am I? I don't quite understand the point of your anger. Mizuyama pushed the frame of her glasses with a smile. But you're really good, you solved the mystery immediately. Aren't you actually more talented in that field? You're joking, I'm a pacifist, and I don't want to run around bloody crime scenes all day. Anyway, this case is far simpler than I thought, and that makes me uneasy. Looks like choosing this place to go first was correct. Cheap cases like this can be easily solved by Kirigiri Kyoko. The cost should have been raised a little more. I do think it's not as easy as you make it out to be. Let's not talk about that, does it really matter? What doesn't matter? The rope used in the technique may have been collected by the murderer now. That guy should still be there. I'll go catch him. Yaki turned around to run. Mizuyama saw the opportunity and pulled out the iron pipe from the holster of her thigh. Why don't you come along if you can? Yaki turned again. Mizuyama quickly put her hands behind her back and hid the iron pipe. Yes. Okay, let's rock. Yaki was about to run again, when the full swing of the iron pipe in Mizuyama's hand smashed the back of his head. Yaki made a frog-like cry and fell to the ground. Mizuyama felt his pulse, and there was something, so she swung down the iron pipe again, making sure to kill him. With that, Yaki is completely dead. Having learned the details of the two cases herself with the little time she had, Mizuyama was satisfied with what she achieved. It is meaningless to set some random traps to trip Samidare Yui. One must gain advantage by going there first. This is a common method to win in war. Alright, now for the main event. Libra Girls Academy, Samidare Yui. So you are the murderer. Mizuyama-san? That's right. Mizuyama said, still pressing her nail gun against my chest. As I thought, you and Kirigiri Kyoko took separate ways. I thought this would be a sure win, but I didn't expect you to know the secret of this Libra Girls Academy. Even if you knew, you couldn't do anything about it, but unfortunately, someone came in the way. You were one of the suspects in the Takeda Haunted Mansion case. Was that also part of the plan? Maybe. Maybe? Everything was arranged by Ryuzoji Sure. Various elements were intricate and intertwined with each other, forming the situation of this moment. And in the end, all this is still part of Ryuzoji Gekka's planning? Why did you kill Takasaki-san? When I was a counselor at school 2 years ago, something happened with her. I'll skip the details here. You must be tired of this kind of long story, and my hands will be tired too. Mizuyama shook the nail gun to indicate to me. Mizuyama-san, if you are really the murderer, you should know very well about the black challenge. Your game is over. Even killing me will not change the fact that you lost. Yeah, I lost this game. But what about the rest of it? If the 12 locked rooms are not all solved, then you won't claim a victory over Ryuzoji, sure, right? I don't understand her intentions, and could only nod. Your comprehension level is not very good then. Do I have to make it clear? I don't want Ryuzoji to retire now. Of course, whether he is a detective or an executive of the Crime Victims Relief Committee. So that's how it is. She is one of the followers of Ryuzoji Gekka. Ryuzoji's outstanding performance is unmatched by other detectives, and many detectives have made him their goal and person of admiration. I used to have a lot of respect for him, and this respect has not completely disappeared even now. I once also wanted to be a person who can save others, but I lack one decisive thing, that is conviction. Sticking to your convictions is easy to say, but extremely difficult in practice. Giving up due to lack of ability, giving in to the opinions of those around you, giving in to power. For various reasons, conviction is easily compromised. However, what I saw in Ryuzoji's expression was a conviction full of beauty and form. According to the laws of this world, beauty means stability, from molecular structure to the golden ratio. Don't you think the same can be said about forms on the spiritual level? Mizuyama said with some excitement. I couldn't quite understand exactly what she is talking about, but I got the idea that she admires Ryuzoji a lot. If I'm killed by Mizuyama-san here, the condition to solving the 12 cases would indeed be impossible to meet. But do you think that would make Ryuzoji-san happy with this win? I can't believe that man, who is all about fairness, would be satisfied with a winner being determined in this manner. You say that like you know everything. My words seemed to offend Mizuyama. She pressed the muzzle of the nail gun harder against my chest. You're misunderstanding a bit. I don't plan to kill you here. I will keep you locked up according to the original plan and ensure that you won't die until the time limit expires. Even if I'm locked up, someone will come to save me, I'm sure. Like Kirigiri Kyoko? Yeah, she is the most troublesome opponent, but can she come? Your phone is in my hands now, and I want you to tell her that you are all right whenever she contacts you. What if I tell her there's danger? Then it's all over. And I'll force an end to the game, which means killing you. I'm not going to let my efforts go to waste. She will definitely come here. After she solves all the other cases, she will definitely come, much sooner than you think. Of course, I've already thought of a countermeasure. Countermeasure? After I was separated from you yesterday, I went to investigate the Museum of Medieval Western Europe torture devices as we agreed before, and then immediately went to the Goodbye Bar to investigate. Incidentally, I already know the identity of the murderer and the crime method in both cases. Do you know what this means? I have no idea. I already know the exact mystery and its answer. I am ahead of you. Whether or not I will tell you this information is entirely up to me. It doesn't matter, we'll investigate by ourselves. You still don't understand, you're a big lap late. While you're behind me, I can brew all the lies I want about the cases. Of course, I can't twist the answer, but the mystery is a fair game. Fake evidence, forged eyewitnesses, fake related personnel, and so on. Wah. This girl's thought process? Next, I will spread all sorts of false information. Even if you get the same evidence that was on the crime scene, you will not be able to judge whether it's true or false. You'll run out of time trying to sort out the true from the false. You're not the only source of information. Aside from the museum, there should be Yaki-san at the bar. He is dead. Asking Yaki-san, wow, hey, you just said. He is dead. Dead? It was all me, Fufu, another extra crime has been added. My game has already failed, so I can't change my name and start a new life. Resetting is out of the question, but as long as I can save Ryuzoji, sure, throwing my life like this isn't pointless. Why do you want to go that far for Ryuzoji-san? A hero who has saved so many people in this world, until now has anyone ever thought about saving him? Mizuyama said in a strengthened tone. No one has ever thought about his plights. He should have the right to be saved too. Do you think your actions are saving him? You are just disrupting the deadly challenge between me and Ryuzoji-san. Shut up. What deadly challenge? The calm Mizuyama was suddenly enraged. Did I press her buttons? What deadly challenge? Why was someone like you chosen? Mizuyama's hand is shaking. She cannot hurt me. All of this is also part of Ryuzoji's game. There is no way she would break the rules of the game, I'm sure of it. Don't move. Ryuzoji wiped her eyes with her free hand. You're an idiot if you think I'm afraid to shoot. I'll do it if I have to, and if you don't want to be like that guy lying on the ground. Mizuyama turned her sight over to Yadariji. In an instant, her eyes widened. He's gone. Hearing her say that, I couldn't help but look back. Yadariji, whose body had just fallen limp on the floor, is gone. There are traces of blood on the floor from the dragging. The bloodstains extends in the direction of the corridor, which leads to the cylinder on the right. Those girls. Mizuyama blurted out. Oh, I see, it's Tsukiyo and Nizuna's doing. They are gone too, and the door to the corridor was closed at some point. Back off. Mizuyama raised the nail gun forward and ordered me. The entrance to the corridor is right behind me, and I walked backwards as she said, with my hands up. I walked slowly on purpose. Finally, my back hit the door. Open it. I pretended to be struggling to backhand the door open. We then walked down the corridor. I turned my head to look at the corridor. Tsukiyo and Nizuna are carrying Yadariji from his arms, planning to drag him into the room in the cylinder. Stop right there. Mizuyama shouted into the corridor over my shoulder. However, Tsukiyo and Nizuna did not stop. Mizuyama pushed me with the muzzle of the nail gun and we continued to walk along the corridor. The sound of the door closing came from behind me. Looks like they successfully entered the room. Thank goodness. Why is this happening? Mizuyama stomped her feet. We finally arrived at the door. Mizuyama tried opening the door with her free hand. But the door could not be opened. The scales mechanism has been activated. Tsukiyo and Nazuna should have expected this and dragged Yadariji away. They must have thought they needed a heavy object to sink the room. After a while, the door opened. However, after opening it, Tsukiyo and Nizuna are not in the room, but the body of Tekisaki Hana lying on the ground instead. Looks like they managed to escape successfully. I said sarcastically. Forget it, it's not a big deal. Mizuyama said through gritted teeth. They are not my target anyway, so I'm relieved to have them out of the picture. She said boastfully, and moved the muzzle of the nail gun to my head. Put your hands behind your head and get down on your knees. Just do it. She said aloud. As expected, she is getting impatient. It's not good to irritate her too much. I did as she ordered. I have finally been cornered. What would Kirigiri Kyoko do at a time like this? No, she and I are far apart in our basic abilities. I can't use self-defense like she can, and I'm not as smart as her. As planned, just stay here until the game is over. Mizuyama pulled out a handcuff out of nowhere and put it on my wrists. This is the first time I've been handcuffed. I'll prepare food for you. The bathroom and toilet will depend on my mood. If I'm in a bad mood, you will lose these favors. Ah. As Ms. Uyama began to explain the do's and don'ts of imprisonment, a human voice came from the other side of the corridor to the chapel side. Hey, Detective-san, where did you go? We were locked up just now, but we were able to come out again all of a sudden. A stupid-sounding male voice. Who on earth is he? Ah, they're there. They walked through the open door of the corridor. Detective-sa, and, huh? Who are you? A short guy in a trench coat approached leisurely, and behind him, a sturdy punk youth and a girl wearing a Chinese dress for some reason followed along. What's with this bunch of weirdos? What's happening now is completely incomprehensible to my mind. It seems Ms. Uyama is on the same boat as me. With a confused look on her face, she turned the nail gun that was pointed at me towards them. Don't come any closer. Hey, Columbo. Something's wrong, isn't it? The punk youth finally realized that something is not right. Run. I shouted at them with all my strength. Senpai, what should we do? She told us to run. Run? That sounds like a call for help. Let's go, Kosuka, Ellery. The trench coat guy ran towards us. He's a lost cause. The punk youth and the girl in the Chinese dress also followed him. What are these people thinking? Ms. Uyama raised her nail gun lopsidedly. Using a trembling finger, she pulled the trigger. With a bluff, thick nails shot out from the air pressure gun. Ellery. The trench coat guy shouted. The Chinese dress girl opened the umbrella in her right hand. The nail pricked and stopped on the umbrella, but failed to completely pierce it, leaving only a small cut on it. Jump, Kosuka. Watch me. The punk youth flew out from behind the umbrella, formed a huge bullet, and gave Ms. Uyama a volley kick. The short-statured Ms. Uyama was knocked back with a surprising momentum. Her whole body slammed into the door hard, and the big impact almost made the air tremble. Ms. Uyama's body went limp and fell to the ground like a soulless doll. Hey, she's not dead, right? I don't want to become a murderer, you know? The punk youth stood up and said with a blue face. It's okay. She's still alive. The Chinese dress girl felt her pulse and said. That was dangerous just now, Mississippi. The young man in the trench coat walked up to me and said. We are Adaitowitsu University's mystery study group and. Talking big again. Alas, this is our manager. Manager, not cool. You Thank you very much. Although I don't understand what just happened, I bowed my head and thanked them first. Can you please help me open the handcuffs? Got it. The young man in the trench coat took out what looks like a hairpin from his pocket and inserted it into the keyhole of my handcuffs. After about 5 minutes, the lock finally opened. I heard him say, huh? That's strange several times while at it, but the handcuffs got open anyway, so I didn't think much of it. I put the removed handcuffs on Ms. Uyama. Now I can rest assured. I let out a sigh of relief and collapsed on the ground. This mysterious trio said they had met Yadarigi in the Karyobana Academy case, and that they are prominent members of the mystery study group, Columbo, Kosuka, and Ellery. According to what they said, they escaped from Karyobana Academy by helicopter. After that adventure, they flew directly to Libra Girls Academy, according to Yadarigi's instructions. At first, Yadarigi planned to get off the helicopter alone, but in order to help him solve the case, the members of mystery study group also got off the helicopter. Then Yadarigi and his team broke the barrier at the entrance of Libra Girls Academy and went inside. They first went down the left corridor. The members of mystery study group rushed into the room and accidentally closed the door, letting the scales activate. There were 3 people on mystery study group side, 2 coffins and the statue of the Virgin Mary, and there were 4 people on our side, including the corpse. The weight balance was subtle, but it's probably because there were boys on mystery study group side, mainly Kosuka, so they were heavier on their side. Incidentally, since Yadarigi walked behind the mystery study group members, he was lucky not to be trapped together with them. With that, the room we were in rose up and we were able to get out. At that time, the murderer, Ms. Uyama, had also come out as well. After we were locked up, she was completely free to roam around. The entrance only needed to be reblocked from the outside, but when she came back, the barriers at the entrance were taken out, so she rushed in and saw Yadarigi who shouldn't have been here, and immediately knocked him down with the iron pipe. That's probably how it went. It is now 7 a.m. on the 12th. I went back to the dormitory in the morning. At this time of the day, the first morning class had already started, so I didn't meet anyone in the corridors. Maybe it was because there was no one in sight that the scene in front of me was slightly different from what I was used to seeing. There was a strange sense of discomfort, as if I had wandered into an unfamiliar place. Seeking relief, I quickly walked to my dorm room and opened the door. However, Kirigiri was not there. I thought she must have solved the case a long time ago and had already fallen asleep on the bed, but the covers were empty and had no warmth. She hadn't come back. I fell headlong into bed and fell asleep, not even dreaming, sleeping like the dead. The bell rang. I sat up in shock. This place is? I looked around while wiping my cold sweat, yet this is not a strange murder crime scene, nor the interior of a gloomy building, but my dorm room. I'm glad I came back safely. I feel anemic and dizzy, but I finally feel that I'm back to my daily life. I looked at the clock. It's almost noon, and the bell just now was the school's lunch break bell. I checked my phone. It's time for the scheduled contact we agreed on. Yaki will call at noon, followed by Yadarigi, Ms. Uyama, and Kirigiri in turn every 15 minutes. However, 5 minutes after noon, and Yaki still hasn't called. With my hair in a mess, I walked into the dorm's cafeteria and turned on the TV myself. The noon news is on, and it's reporting a murder that had taken place in a corner of some depressed business district, with the news that Yaki had died. He had indeed been killed. Even though he felt difficult to approach, he was actually very enthusiastic and a good person. If we hadn't asked him to help investigate the case, maybe he wouldn't have died. No matter what excuse I make, I am responsible for his death. It's no different from being killed by me. It was me. I killed him. It was me. I buried my face in my arms in the empty cafeteria, wrapping myself in the darkness beneath my eyelids. Is this the path I chose? Is this the path that Kirigiri has taken? Even if I put everything I have into protecting one person's life, at the same time, another person's life fades so easily. If I had to choose, who would I have saved? If I had talent, I would have been able to save him. Please let me save more people. At that moment, the phone that is tightly held in my hand suddenly vibrated. It's a call from an unfamiliar number. Hello. Is this Samidare Yui-san? I'm Tokatsu Nizuna. Ah. I felt a little better and couldn't help but lift my head up. Natsu-chan. What's happening? How did you get this number? Detective Yadarigi-san asked me to call you at 12:15. You guys made a scheduled contact, right? Ah, yeah. Geez, he's such a lawful guy. Yadarigi, Nizuna, and Tsukiyo were admitted to the same hospital after the incident. They also suggested that I go to the hospital for a visit, but I refused because I wanted to return to the dormitory as soon as possible to regain my sense of reality. Yadarigi-san is now in the intensive care unit. He was still conscious when he was brought into the hospital, but I heard that his situation is not promising because of the head injury. Really? How about you, Natsu-chan? Are you all right? We don't have any problems. Tsukiyo-san is sleeping soundly beside me. That's great. So, Yadarigi-san asked me to tell you about something. Nazuna told me the answer to the Karyobana Academy case. Everything about it was strange to me who had not experienced it. Thank you, I'm glad that's over. I really don't know how to thank Yadariji-san. If it wasn't for him, we would still be locked up in Libra Girls Academy, and the case would not have been solved. Not only that, he also helped solving the Karyobana Academy case. A rank 2 detective is really something. And he did not betray us all the way. I've had a really bad time with detectives, including Mizuyama, and that's why I'm so glad to have him with us. It makes me so happy that I'm almost in tears. Speaking of which, what about the mystery study group guys? They seem to have accompanied you to the hospital. They went to the police station after seeing Yadariji-san out of danger. They probably went to talk about the cases. Really, then it looks like it should be no problem to leave it to them. Yes. And at the end Yadariji-san said, I have no choice but to leave the battlefield for now, but I am not going to stop fighting for her. Her? There is only one person I can think of from that word. Right. She was very important to him. I feel like I understand a little why Yadariji is fighting with us. Maybe he just happened to be on our side. That's what he entrusted me to tell you. With that done, Samador-san, you are really amazing. We are both high school students, but the world you see is completely different from what I see. You feel much older than me. You want to say I'm old? I joked. I'm not really that amazing at all. I'm just an ordinary high school girl like you. No, Samador-san, you stood up for yourself at that time and tried to protect us. I don't think that's something ordinary people can do. Detectives are really something. Is that so? I become interested in detectives. But is there a chance for me to be a detective too? Yeah. Natsu-chan can definitely. As I said that, I suddenly felt it was wrong to say. Maintaining the detective identity, on the contrary, is constant suffering and all about losing. Even if you become a detective because of admiration, there will always come a time when you will fail. You could even lose your life. Still, it's kind of a relief when people like Nazuna say it. Relief. A hero who has saved so many people in this world, until now has anyone ever thought about saving him? Her words echoed in my mind. Who can save the wounded detective? Samador-san, after everything is settled, can we still meet? Nazuna asked. Yeah, of course. Right, let's go to the beach together in the summer. Sure, I have to lose weight quickly before then. We promised each other a future that we didn't know if it would even happen, and then hung up. 12:30. Originally, Mizuyama should be calling at this time, but she is in the police station now, so she is probably too busy to care about this. As I was thinking this, I received a call on the phone. I nervously pressed the button. Hello? You don't have to be so scared. It's Mizuyama. WI. You should have been arrested by the police. Did you escape? I stood up and shouted. No, I am in the police station. Just now, a detective suddenly handed me a phone. It seems that it was sent by Ryuzoji. He must have arranged it all in advance, in case that I get caught. He wants you to call me. Yes, if you lost to her, then you have to tell her all the information related to the cases. I guess that's what he means. He really is a man of fairness. In other words, Ryuzoji had long anticipated that things would develop to this point. Of course, he should have already thought of the corresponding countermeasures if things had turned out otherwise. This Ryuzoji guy is really unfathomable. I stand by Ryuzoji's conviction. Mizuyama first explained to me the goodbye bar case. That case was investigated by Yaki, and Mizuyama intended to keep all the information obtained from his investigation to herself. That's all. Oh right, the father of the murderer Gunzo died 30 years ago. From my investigation, I found that his case was suspected of being a murder to obtain insurance money, but because of insufficient evidence, the suspect was exempt from prosecution. One of the suspects at the time was the victim Kodama Katsumi. Her investigation is impeccable. It's unbelievable that a talent like hers could be buried in rank 7. Era, why are you silent, Sammy Dare Yui? The sound of her voice over the phone brought me back to my senses. Could it be that you think the information I provided isn't true? Or is it because you don't like talking to the perpetrator? No, it's not like that. I was just wondering, why would a talented person like you do such a thing that would ruin your life? It seems that you haven't yet understood the meaning of my actions. I don't think I have ruined my life. But. Fufu, it's better not to talk about this now. We don't have much time for ourselves. Let's talk about the Museum of Medieval Western Europe torture devices case that I was in charge of. Why yes. Mizuyama recounted the details of the case. The victim was burned to death in the prefabricated hut behind the museum. There is a courtyard between the two buildings. In the center of the courtyard stood an Iron Maiden, and that Iron Maiden had no head. As for the technique used in that case, in a sentence, it was concentration-induced fire. Concentration-induced fire? The technique in the bar was a combination of several classic techniques, and the museum one was also a classic mechanical trick. Concentration-induced fire is the kind of fire that's ignited by focusing sunlight on a point through a lens-like object. You must have tried to use a magnifying glass to set paper on fire when you were doing science experiments, right? It's similar to that. Natural fire caused by concentrated light can happen anywhere, as long as the conditions are met, like a mineral water bottle placed under the eaves of a house can be the cause of the fire. You mean that the murderer deliberately caused this phenomenon? That's right. The murderer calculated the direction of the sunlight, and at a certain moment let the light gather on the matches inside the prefabricated hut to ignite it. The murderer used this method to ensure that he had an alibi. But where did the sunlight gather from? That's where the Iron Maiden comes in. As written in the challenge letter, the Iron Maiden was used as a murder weapon. The Iron Maiden should be just like what the name suggests, made of iron, right? Don't you get it yet? The Iron Maiden in that case was special because it was headless? Yes, a horizontally severed neck. Isn't that just the right shape to put something on? What if, for example, a lens-shaped object was placed there? You mean the headless Iron Maiden was the base used to place lens? Exactly, I think the so-called lens was an ice sphere. The murderer set it up at night and left, and in order to focus the sunlight on the lens, he also used the night armors displayed in the museum. I think he used the mirror-like polished shields to reflect and focus the sunlight on the Iron Maiden lens. The knights were also headless, but that must have been a red herring to camouflage his true intentions. Can an ice sphere be used as a lens? Of course it can, and the ice will melt off as soon as it is left for a while, so there is no need for the murderer to collect it. Perhaps the role of the shields also included using sunlight to melt the ice sphere. As long as the sphere melts a little, the rest of it would fall into the torso of the Iron Maiden and shatter. What if it wasn't sunny? Then it would have been postponed to the next day. Although it would have been more difficult to make the victim lose consciousness because of alcohol again, the victim himself probably wouldn't have had any memory of it. Mizuyama already has a good idea of who the culprit is. It seems that he is a student at the victim's university. I don't know how to say this, but is it really okay for you to give me all this information? Mizuyama-san, you investigated the case not to solve it, but to get the information first and have an advantage, right? This is the information that you took the risk to get. As I said earlier, I just do what Ryuzoji thinks is right. I know that giving you this information will ultimately be detrimental to Ryuzoji, but I have a feeling inside me that perhaps this is the relief he is seeking. The true answer is for you to find out. Yes. Having said that, the outcome has not been decided yet. I wonder if you can solve all the remaining cases. It's almost 12:45. She's going to call soon, so I should hang up too. I don't think we'll ever see each other again. Goodbye forever. Ms. Uyama hung up the phone. Perhaps it was her pride that made her not let me say goodbye back to her. It's 12:45. Knowing Kirigiri, she should call at the exact second. Or that's what I thought. But a minute later, the phone remained silent. 2 minutes passed, 3 minutes passed. 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes passed. I left the cafeteria hesitantly and went back to my dorm room. 20 minutes passed, I put on my jacket. 30 minutes passed. I rushed out of the dormitory. When I came out, it's snowing sporadically outside. I ran at full speed, and the snowflakes scraped my face. I threw my arms through the straps of my backpack as I ran to the school gate. Kirigiri hasn't called, which means that she is most likely trapped in a closed environment, or something unexpected happened. Either way, she needs help. Maybe she's crying out for help right now. Just then, the phone rang. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm here to report, the echidna case is over. The perpetrator is Shima Shirao, 29 years old, male, birthday is August 1st. He is a robbery and murder survivor from 7 years ago. The targets are the robbers. Liko emerged from the shadow of the school gate. He has the jacket on one hand and a black umbrella on the other. Even though it has only been a few days since I parted from him, I somehow have a very nostalgic feeling. He waited for me with open arms. So you're here. I ran to him. What kind of pose is this? Two people hugging each other, happy to be reunited. No need for that. Did you forget what you promised me? Didn't you promise to give me a kiss when I return safely? I promised you something like this? I guess you actually forgot, so let's save it for another time. For now though. Liko opened his arms again. All right, fine. I bent down and hugged him. For some reason my arms didn't feel much of his body. It felt like I was holding air. Only the sweet and pleasant aroma could prove that he is indeed here. Okay, done. It was soft. Don't think out loud, it's embarrassing. I shouted loudly. Now is not the time for this, Kirigiri-chan hasn't called, do you know anything? About that. Yeah. Kirigiri seems to have left the Twin Ability Development Institute together with the murderer. Eh? After that, someone found the murderer's car under a cliff, which was badly damaged, but neither of them was in the car. There was a third person on the riverbank near the site, who was presumed to be a witness, and it's assumed that the perpetrator stole the witness's car, then escaped. Wait a minute, where's Kirigiri-chan? Is she alright? She should be fine. Should be? Yes, I didn't see it myself, so I'm only speculating. There were no bloodstains at the accident site that belonged to Kirigiri, and no news has been received of a girl's body floating by the river or downstream. Judging from the current situation, we can assume that the murderer took Kirigiri away. Taken away. These words hit me as if I had been shot in the heart. The back of my eyes ached. Every time I hear these words on the news, my mind gets pulled back to the past. Someone took her away, took her away, took her away. Yui-san? Ah, yeah, I'm fine. I'm sorry, I was around, yet I still let Kirigiri be taken away by the criminal. Liko stood on tiptoe a little and let me under his umbrella, and the snow is accumulating little by little around us. I can't blame you for that. You were still on the cruise ship at the time. To be honest, that case was over a long time ago. Eh? What were you doing before then? Following the progress of the game. Following? Didn't we separate the cases at the beginning? Part of them under Yui-san's responsibility, and the other part under mine. In this case, if I intervene in Yui-san's cases, I would be suspected of foul play. No, you wouldn't. I really want your help. Actually, that does make me feel the itch. I really want to solve the mysteries, but if I solve all of them, those who are watching the game will be bored, right? I think that's boring too. It has nothing to do with those who are watching the game. What do you mean by bored? Isn't this a matter of human lives? I raised my voice. As expected, I cannot expect Liko to have the ethics and sense of justice that a detective should have, but at the same time, there exists a detective like Ryuzoji who treats all this with a firm resolve. Liko looked back at me as if he is looking at something strange. Sorry, it's not my place to complain to you. I lowered my head and stared at my feet. I never thought that this would happen to Kirigiri-chan. What should I do? You know what you have to do. Eh? Aren't you going to help Kyoko-san? But where was she taken to? I have no clue. Now is the time to make a deduction. Where did the criminal who took Kyoko-san away go to and where are they hiding? Please figure it out. Yui-san, aren't you a number 88 who specializes in kidnapping cases? Even if you say so. I can't give up. I have to think. Where is Kirigiri? Why did the perpetrator take Kirigiri instead of killing her? They must have taken her as a hostage. They wants to negotiate by using her as a trump card against me, the summoned detective. It's very likely that Kirigiri has solved the mystery of the locked room and revealed the crime of the perpetrator. The so-called ultimate locked room should not have been a problem for her at all. The cornered perpetrator changed their plan to use the hostage to threaten me out of the game. I don't know how the perpetrator subdued Kirigiri Kyoko, but since they were dragging such a big burden as a hostage, a vehicle was essential when he moved. Most kidnappers would use a car, especially if the kidnapping target is a minor. There are a few cases where the crime was carried out in the car throughout. However, this time, since the perpetrator stole the car of a third party, it should be because it was impossible for them to stay in the car for a long time. They abandoned the car as soon as possible and moved to a safe place. A safe place? The crime was not intended to be a kidnapping, so there must not have been any special hiding spot prepared. So is it the criminal's own home? No, in this case, the detective could easily think of going to the criminal's home, so it's not safe for them there. According to criminal psychology, they should have found a place that the detectives cannot think of as a hiding spot. Like a mountain hut in some secluded place? How could that be found? I checked the time on my cell phone, it's past 1 p.m. 48 hours have passed since the Black Challenge began, and there are about 119 hours left. In some cases, the perpetrator is with the hostage for a long time, so it becomes difficult to commit the crime alone, and they would need help. From the criminal's point of view, the get help mentality is probably as strong as the find a safe place one, right? Who would they ask for help? If I'm the criminal, there is only one person I can go to in this situation. Ryuzoji Geka. Ryuzoji's castle that place can guarantee safety. I remember that all the criminals caught by Liko are also temporarily being held there, and it's the only place that could guarantee both security and secrecy. A very suitable place for a decisive battle. Liko, maybe Kirigiri-chan. The car is ready. Liko stretched out a hand and pointed to the driveway in front of the school gate. There is a black limousine parked there. What an excellent detective assistant. Hurry up to Ryuzoji-san's castle. Understood. Liko opened the backseat door, escorted me into the car, and sat himself in the driver's seat. You drive? I promised to drive safely. Liko started the car in a smooth motion. My daily life quickly became a landscape that disappeared in the rearview mirror. As we got closer to Ryuzoji's detective office, the snow began falling more and more, and the scenery outside the car window became pure white. The oncoming cars turned on their headlights, and in that light, snowflakes shone like peonies. The car stopped in front of the brick archway marking the private property of Ryuzoji Geka. What's wrong, Liko? Something is strange. An iron fence is lined up under the arch. Liko and I got out of the car and removed the iron fence to clear the driveway. Snow built up on our heads and shoulders in a split second. We brushed the snow off and got back into the car. Usually there are many clients on this road, but today there is no one. I have a bad feeling about this. Let's hurry up, Liko. The car drove forward along the boulevard. It felt eerie as the rows of dead trees and the quietly falling snow looked like a lined-up group of shinigamis with their heads hanging low. We finally reached another archway. There was an iron fence here too, and to move on, we had to get off the car again and remove it. Going further through the courtyard with the fountain, we now can see Ryuzoji's castle. With the snowy gray sky as the background, the castle looks like a ruin that has been cursed for centuries. Is it because there is not a soul around? Or is that the castle's original appearance? The car stopped in front of the marble foyer. Liko and I got out of the car and stood in front of the automatic door, but the door didn't respond. Not only that, but behind the transparent door, long tables and sofas are piled up into a hill, building a fortification. It seems that Yui-san's reasoning was correct. Liko said. But it feels strange. Who built this kind of fortification? Is it the criminal who took Kirigiri-chan away? It's natural to think so. What about Ryuzoji-san? His own detective office was made to look like this by someone else. While we were talking in front of the automatic door, there are small children poking their heads out of the gaps in the fortifications every now and then to observe the situation outside. They are orphans hired by Ryuzoji as trainee detectives here. When I met their eyes, they hid in a panic. Ah, wait a bit, you guys. I called out to them. However, they seemed to be very wary and did not show themselves up. It's me, Licorn. Liko shouted to behind the door. Several kids showed their faces. Liko. Yes, I'm back. It's Liko. A young boy brought his face close, his whole body almost pressed against the automatic door. It's not good, Liko. An unfamiliar older man has released all the criminals in the basement. The criminals in the basement? Could it be the criminals that Liko said were caught before they did their crime? Did that unfamiliar older man have a girl with him? Liko asked. The boy nodded. There's no mistake, Kirigiri is here. Those criminals gave us orders to block the entrance. Another boy said. Where's Ryuzoji-san? He's not here. This means the place got occupied when he was away? I asked Liko. Is security this lax here? Since Ryuzoji-san is not here, nothing else can be done. I don't think the children alone can resist the criminals who are holding a hostage. Right. Are the criminals who escaped from the basement still inside? Liko asked the boy. They should be. They said they will siege here together. What does siege mean? It means they're going to stay here for a while. Liko explained, then approached the door. Can I open this? They ordered that no one is allowed in, and if we don't obey their orders, we would kill the girl. Is that so? Then it's better not to open the door. Sorry, Liko. Liko left from the door and came back to me. There are 5 criminals who escaped from the basement. Almost all of them have no combat experience. It should be easy to deal with them, but one of them is a detective with DSC number 355. We still need to be careful. That said, it's nothing to fear compared to the killer. What are those people planning to do by hiding here and not coming out? It must be a deal with Tsusumi who kidnapped Kyoko-san. They help him escape in the remaining 5 days. In exchange, they would get a share of the 561 million yen he will get when the game is cleared. It is a win-win situation for the culprits who ended up with nothing. It would be a great stress reliever. There are 6 people in total on the other side. And Kirigiri is also being held hostage. I did not expect to face such a difficult problem at the end. Do you know where the criminals are now and what are they doing? Liko asked the boys through the automatic door. We don't know. Ah, speaking of which, another boy said as if he had remembered something. A child brought them food earlier, and the elevator the child took stopped on the 5th floor. Isn't the 5th floor the same as Ryuzoji-san's room? I asked, and Liko nodded. That's the floor dedicated to Ryuzoji-san. We can assume that there are more than one of them there. Liko, said the boy. This side is blocked, but the back door hasn't been yet. Thank you for the information. After saying goodbye to the young boys, Liko and I went around to the back of the building. In the snowy weather, I ran through a maze of English-style gardens while following Liko, passing a small bridge or a stone arch from time to time, like a small adventure. I probably wouldn't have made it out of these gardens without Liko showing me the way. We came to the back door. Although it's a back door, it has eaves like any ordinary house, just like an entrance door. There is a heavy wooden door installed here with a surveillance camera on it. Hey, Liko, there's a camera here, will we be okay? Cameras were on the tree-lined avenues along the way and at the front entrance. Liko took out a key from the pocket of his suit vest and inserted it into the keyhole. Maybe they realized we are here by now. The key turned, and the back door opened. You have a key? Because I worked here. We went inside the building. The corridor is very narrow, and after closing the back door, the sound of snow got cut off. We are in a state of complete silence. Overall, getting in was a success. Liko walked forward like a cat without making any footstep sound, and I followed his example. Across the corridor is the kitchen. Liko gestured me to stop. I peeked in from the side and saw 2 young women standing in front of the gas stove, looking at the pot on the fire. They are probably cooking, and I could smell the corn chowder aroma. I'll take care of the one on the right, Yui-san, you take the left. Liko whispered. Wait, what do you mean by taking care of? Subduing them. I don't know how to do that. Then I'll do it alone. I'm sorry if I can't handle it and end up killing them. Liko quietly jumped out of the shadows and approached the back of the 2 women, wrapping a coiled wire around their necks with each of his right and left hands. Immediately after, he turned around and squatted down, using his shoulders as a fulcrum to pull the wires. His arms crossed over each other as he rotated his body, but it looked like the force of his pull was still accurately transferred to the wires. The 2 women quickly fell. I ran over to the 2 fallen women. Neither of them appear to be dead. Are they all right? They just passed out due to compression of the carotid artery. They will wake up soon. Liko picked up napkins stacked on the stove and handed them to me. Please keep their mouths shut with these. Ah, yes. I twisted the napkins into a rope, put it in the women's mouths and tied it. Afterwards, Liko tied the 2 women with the wires. This leaves 4 more people. I can only sigh at the skillfulness of Liko's technique. I'm really useless, sorry. No, it's part of Yui-san's charm. Thanks. We passed through the spacious kitchen to the next room. There are 3 round tables covered with white cloth set up, so this is probably the cafeteria. We were about to go out through a nearby door when we heard the sound of footsteps coming from the opposite side. Is lunch not ready yet? A lazy male's voice. The man opened the door and entered the cafeteria. Liko took out what looks like a long needle from the inside of the jacket on his arm and quickly approached the man. Hey! The man with tousled hair screamed. Liko held the needle near the man's throat. Looking closely, it's actually a stationary compass. In the eyes of that man, it must be a terrible weapon. Don't yell. Oh, okay. What are you doing here? Liko asked coldly. Lunch. What did Tsutsumi instruct you? He told me to keep watch to prevent anyone from sneaking in. Where is Tsutsumi? I think he's on the 5th floor. Where's the girl that Tsutsumi brought? Should be with him. The man easily came clean. I think he is probably not suitable for committing crimes. With his cowardly personality, it's really a shame that he dared to participate in the Black Challenge. Liko, after asking about the information, tied the man up just like before. There are 3 more people. At this pace, it will be over before the sun sets. I hope so. Liko and I went out of the cafeteria, walked through the corridor, and finally came to the foyer, which is covered with the kind of carpet found in a first-class hotel, and there are waiting sofas. In front of the automatic door at the entrance, the youngsters are busy building the fortifications, and they are pretending not to notice us. Liko pressed the elevator button. The lights indicating the floors were lit in the order of 5, 4, 3, and so on. Who are you? When I came back to my senses, I found a man in a crumpled suit coming from the corridor. He is holding a whiskey bottle in one hand, his face is red, and he is stumbling when he's walking. Ah, you. From that time. The man pointed at Liko and called. Probably one of the criminals caught by Liko. Judging from his apparent age, he should be the detective numbered 355. How dare you get in my way? The man pulled out what looks like a gun from his belt and directed it at Liko. The elevator arrived and the door opened. The man pulled the trigger. There is no doubt that this is a real gun. There was a flash of light and a deafening bang sounded. At the same time, Liko quickly raised the arm that has the jacket in front of him in a slick motion. Ding, there was a sound like metals colliding with each other, and a hole appeared in the wall. Liko is fine. How is this possible? The bullet got deflected? The man with the gun was stunned. Liko shoved me in the direction of the elevator. I couldn't stand firm on my feet and fell in the elevator. Please go ahead of me, I will definitely catch up later. Liko pressed the button on the 5th floor. Liko! The door began to slowly close. You must come. Before the door was fully closed, I saw Liko wink at me. The elevator started to go up. There were gunshots coming from behind the door. I got scared and covered my ears. I am all alone. From now on, I have to fight on my own. What should I do? Anxiety and nervousness is making my mind chaotic, and just as I was staring at the numbers indicating the floors in a daze, the elevator suddenly stopped on the 3rd floor. I stood up slowly. The 3rd floor? Who stopped the elevator? The door opened. There is a gray-haired man standing outside. He is holding a strange knife in his hand. The tip is level and not sharp. It's a diving knife. The man is wearing a jacket over a diving suit with a snorkel around his neck. What's going on with this guy? We stared at each other's faces. All the people working in this castle are children, so the man in front of me is not from the castle. He must be one of the perpetrators. It seems that he also came to a conclusion at the same time. The man recognized me as the enemy and raised his knife high. I quickly raised my arms to protect myself. Arms are not important. After all, I have to overcome the difficulties in front of me and go rescue Kirigiri. The man swung down his knife. At this moment, children shouted from the hallway, and a group of children armed with baseball helmets and bats ran from the hallway on the left and right, and rushed towards the man with the knife. After the first lunge, the man got unsteady and dropped the knife on the ground. The children seized this opportunity, including the unarmed children, to gather around the man and start punching and kicking him. The bad guy is upstairs, please go beat him, Detective San. One of the children said to me. They know me? Maybe they saw me the last time I came here. I nodded to them. After the elevator door closed, it began to ascend again. I got off the elevator on the 5th floor. At the end of the long corridor is a double door. I walked up to the door, and it opened automatically. Piles of archives and documents, material books scattered everywhere, mountains of knowledge and a sea of creation. A man is sitting on the table with his legs apart, like an uninvited guest who is desecrating this sacred place. He has a kitchen knife in one hand. That is the culprit of the Twin Ability Development Research Institute. There is a wheelchair right in front of the man, and Kirigiri is on it. Her hands and feet are tied, her mouth is taped, and she looks ill and weak, but she still stared at me when she saw me. I've kept you waiting, Kirigiri-chan, I'm here to pick you up. I walked towards the wheelchair. Hey, don't act like I don't exist. Tsutsumi stood up on the table and jumped down from it. Goodness, your rudeness is mutual, but let's talk for now. After all, you found this place very quickly. He laughed while fiddling with the kitchen knife. Please give her back. I glared at him fiercely. Do you understand my intention? Yes. Let's hear it then. You give her back. In exchange, I won't expose your crimes and will let you go. That's all, right? I didn't hesitate at all. Whether to rescue her or expose the perpetrator at her expense, this is hardly a choice. The answer was decided from the beginning. After hearing my words, Kirigiri shook her head desperately. She wants to say something, but because her mouth is taped, she couldn't utter a word. Wow, you're clever. Tsutsumi clapped his hands while holding the kitchen knife. No matter how you think about it, you should do this. You won't lose anything. If you hold on to the pride of the detective, you will lose something important. That would be too stupid. Although I'm very unwilling, but things are indeed as you said. I told him. Although this decision is tantamount to making all my efforts to get to this day with the help of so many people in vain, for me, Kirigiri Kyoko is a person who I will protect even if I have to give up everything. Losing her for not letting go of my pride as a detective is something I can't imagine. In the end, only those who understand the essence of the game like me can win. Tsutsumi seemed quite happy, unable to restrain the smile on his face. You can get her back, but keep her hands as they are until you leave the building. Got it? Understood. I gently peeled off the tape attached to Kirigiri's mouth. She looked at me with an almost crying face, but said nothing. Her expression is as if she has a lot to say, but she swallowed it all and held it back. I've never seen her look so shaky as she is now. I ran my fingers through her tousled hair and untied the ropes that bound her feet. Can you stand up? Kirigiri nodded and staggered out of the wheelchair. I quickly supported her from the side. All right, let's now go to Ryuzoji and tell him the summoned detective is quitting the game. Tsutsumi pointed at me with the kitchen knife and said, Where are we going? The sealed-off room on the 1st floor. The brats here wouldn't let me open that room. Maybe there's something in it that they really don't want people to know about. For them, isn't it the boss's location that they don't want others to know about? They're just a bunch of kids, that's all they can do. Ryuzoji didn't go out at all, and now he should be in the surveillance room. As the game master, he's monitoring the progress of the game. Well, now that you understand, shake a leg, come on. Tsutsumi urged Kirigiri and me from behind, and we came to the hallway. Go slowly, don't try to escape. Tsutsumi exited the room. Behind us, door closed automatically. At this time, I can't accept this ending. Liko suddenly emerged from the shadow of the door and pointed a gun at the temple of Tsutsumi. Tsutsumi's complacent face suddenly froze. It's as if time has suddenly stopped for him alone, and his whole body stiffened. Seems like if you live by bluffing, you can't do anything at a time like this. Liko said with a mischievous smile like in Yoshi. Liko, you're all right. I thought you died. You can actually deflect bullets. You're not a human being, right? I'm not some kind of demon. Liko shook the jacket on his arm, and a folding shovel fell from the inside to the ground. There are 3 depressions on the surface of the shovel, which should be bullet marks. No, you're no different from a demon. What do the rules say if the perpetrator dies midway? I don't know. It will probably be treated like it never happened, right? Then it seems better to kill him. Liko shifted his gaze to the muzzle of the gun. Wait a minute. Tsutsumi put the kitchen knife beside his feet and raised his hands. It's not good to have this kind of vague perception. Wouldn't it be too bad for you to be disqualified by accidentally breaking the rules? Shouldn't we check with Ryuzoji just in case? I'm killing him. Liko ignored his words. Don't. I said to Liko. You don't have to stain your hands for this. See, like the girl said, just lower the gun. Tsutsumi said. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Yui-san, please untie the rope from Kyoko-san's hands and tie this person. I untied the rope of Kirigiri. This way, she is free again. I finally rescued her. I couldn't help hugging her tightly. The fact that you are a detective, that you are alive, that is a very precious thing. I understand this now. I must not let her lose her soul. Tsutsumi-san, please stretch out your hands. Even if you don't tie me up, I won't do anything. I mean, hurry up. I said. Tsutsumi stretched out his 2 hands together towards me without hesitation, and I tied his wrists firmly. Liko finally lowered the gun. Kirigiri-chan, are you all right? I'm fine. She brushed the hair on her face and said. You don't have to force it now. I said with a smile. Kirigiri lowered her head a little, hesitantly shook his body back and forth, and finally hugged me. Thank you, Yui-sama. You should have done this from the beginning. I wiped the smudges off her face and forehead. Kyoko-san, what happened to the Twin Ability Development Institute case? Liko asked. Already solved. She let go of me and answered in her detective voice. With this, the 12 locked rooms are all solved. I started jumping up and said. Before I knew it, Kirigiri was also jumping with me. No, wait a minute, what about me? What are you going to do with me? Tsutsumi said with a dissatisfied expression. Didn't you just declare yourself defeated? That didn't count? Let's not worry about the little details. I said back. What do you mean little? It's very important, okay? What a troublesome fella, do you want me to kill him? Liko again aimed his gun at Tsutsumi. No way. I pressed Liko's arm down. Let's go and report the situation to Ryuzoji-san. Maybe he will accept your defeat declaration, you know? We'll talk about that then. Anyway, we have to go to Ryazaji-san to end this game. Hey Liko, do you know that there is a sealed-off room on the first floor? I know, but that one is just a decoy. The room they really don't want people to know about is. We took the elevator to the first floor. After the elevator reached the first floor, Liko pressed all the floor buttons one by one, so the elevator door that normally goes opens did not, but the wall behind him slid open like a door. The white corridor extended straight ahead. Ryuzoji should be right in front. There is a door on the opposite side. The game is finally over. Our footsteps echoed all the way down the corridor, and we came to the door. The door opened automatically. A white space. It's so cold here that our exhaled breath turns white. The structure here is like a spacious hall with no windows, only the ventilation fans behind iron bars on the opposite wall are slowly rotating. There are no furniture or decorations on the walls and floor. There is a white bed in the center of the room, and a small cabinet next to it with an LCD monitor, that's all. The shape of a person is bulging from the bed, as if someone is sleeping on it, but the person's face cannot be seen. The reason is, his face is covered with a white cloth. And no way. Tsutsumi was the first to speak. I also said the same thing in my heart. No way. I didn't expect it to end like this. Kirigiri and Liko got closer to the bed. Liko took off the white cloth. Beneath the white cloth is the serene face of Ryuzoji Geka. He suffered from a fatal disease. He never told the people around him what that disease was until the end, but when he saw it back then, he knew that the disease would be devouring his life bit by bit. Liko, you knew about it before? Yes, after all, I have been by his side for half a year. Even though he had the intention to hide it, I still found out. That's right, he also took a lot of medicine in front of me. At that time he was already walking towards the abyss of death step by step. This is the end of the hero known as the armchair earl who once saved countless people. To die alone in a place like this. What was he looking for? Was he ever rewarded, even a little? Could it be that he was in a wheelchair because he was sick? No, the inconvenience of his legs and feet is the sequelae of his injuries caused by a criminal when he was a police officer. He was a police officer before? Yes, it's precisely because of it that there are so many of his followers in the police, and why he had such a great influence on them. He did not quit after he got paralyzed, and he fought crime as a police officer, but one day, a prison escape, he killed his wife and daughter, and in the next month he resigned as a police officer. A man who insisted on fighting crime and was proud of it, just walked away without remorse. So, he then became a detective? From his resume, that's what happened. I looked at Ryuzoji's face again. What does his serene expression mean? Sacrifices are inevitable to achieve pure relief, that's what I've come to realize. I recalled what he said. I always thought that the meaning of the sentence is simply to say that in order to save one person, one can sacrifice another one, but a thought suddenly passed through my mind, the one who sacrificed the most was him. Maybe Mizuyama wanted to save him because she understood this. It hasn't been a long time since he died. Kirigiri said while examining the body. At such a time, she did not forget to investigate, it's her style after all. He's holding something in his hand. She took off the cover and checked the thing in Ryuzoji's hands. A remote control. Kirigiri pressed the remote control button without hesitation. The LCD monitor powered on at once and started playing a video. The video appears to have been shot in Ryuzoji's room, with cluttered bookshelves visible in the background. In the center of the video is Ryuzoji in a wheelchair. Samidare Yuiku and Ryuzoji, who was once alive, said to me. First of all, I want to apologize to you. I'm sorry bringing you in a game that ended up like this. Ryuzoji lowered his head. I don't know how to deal with it, so all I could do only staring blankly. The significance of this game is far more than you think. It is multi-layered. It can also be said to be juxtaposed and intersected with each other, forming a circle. In any case, what you saw is all that matters. Keep the answers you got in your heart, and please continue to fight as a detective in the future. Ryuzoji then paused for a while, coughed violently, and then looked at the screen again. You took a different path from me out of your own will. Do you remember when I said you are the same as me? Now that sentence is not right either. The path you took is one I didn't. You have to walk forward with your head held high. As a detective, I am proud of you. Ryuzoji showed a calm smile. Then he picked up the remote on the side, wanting to stop the recording. However, he seemed to suddenly remember something and spoke again. As a senior, I have a piece of advice I want to tell you. Your mind is too rigid, although I'm not qualified to speak for others. If you can be more flexible, maybe more people won't have to die. It's almost time to say goodbye. The game is your victory. Thank you for bringing me a pleasant game at the end of my life. And good luck in your struggles. The recording is interrupted here. Hey, what's going on, Kirigiri-chan? Does he mean that there was a way to solve the case faster? I said uneasily. Yes, Yui-wan-sama, there were a lot of hints from the beginning. In fact, in all 12 challenges letters there were hints to the answer. What? I didn't know. The 12 locked rooms correspond to the 12 constellations, and each criminal belonged to the corresponding constellation. You get it now, right? As long as you check the birthdays of the relevant personnel to determine their zodiac signs, you can know the constellation and who is the culprit. How could this be? Aquarius, January 20th to February 18th. The perpetrator, Kochiki Yoshinaga, born in February 10th. Pisces, February 19th to March 20th. The perpetrator, Kochiki Otoko, born in February 25th. Aries, March 21st to April 19th. The perpetrator, Oboro Ryuko, born in April 13th. Taurus, April 20th to May 20th. The perpetrator, Uchida Toru, born in May 5th. Gemini, May 21st to June 21st. The perpetrator, Tsutsumi Toya, born in June 12th. Cancer, June 22nd to July 22nd. The perpetrator, Kumano Saika, born in July 1st. Leo, July 23rd to August 22nd. The perpetrator, Shima Shirao, born in August 1st. Virgo, August 23rd to September 22nd. The perpetrator, Karasuba Kariyasu, born in August 30th. Libra, September 23rd to October 23rd. The perpetrator, Mizue Yamasachi, born in September 29th. Scorpio, October 24th to November 21st. The perpetrator, Arai Gunzo, born in November 1st. Sagittarius, November 22nd to December 21st. The perpetrator, Kakatsuba Kurisu, born in December 8th. Capricorn, December 22nd to January 19th. The perpetrator, Hariguo, born in December 29th. Tsutsumi interjected. I almost forgot about him. If I asked about your birthday first, I might have made a mistake in my judgment, so I didn't. I originally planned to ask when I finally confirmed the answer. Kirigiri said. To confirm the answer, it can indeed be used in that way. Having said that, I once again realized that Ryuzoji Geka is a terrifying person. He can make a thing have 2 or even 3 meanings, with all of them intertwined, and with the truth more complicated to hide. But once you figure it out, by just changing your way of thinking a little, the truth comes out all at once. This incomparable talent no longer exists in this world. Is it game over now? Just now, Ryuzoji Geka announced Yui-wan-sama's victory, so let's accept his words with gratitude. Kirigiri said with her arms crossed. Hey, wait, I haven't accepted it yet. Tsutsumi said, waving his bound arms. You. I approached him with disgust. Licorn, can you hear me? Suddenly, the video that was interrupted started playing again. We were taken aback and looked at the monitor again. No, I should call you Mikagami Ray. You have helped me a lot in the past 6 months, thank you. Through this game, I can see that you have undoubted strength, and a detective at your level should have already understood my dying wish. I looked at Liko. Liko opened his arms and shrugged. I've come to terms with my own death, but there's one more thing I can't take care of, and that is the castle I live in. When I'm gone, the children here will have nowhere to go, and those who seek redemption will be the same. So I want to ask you one thing. Can you inherit the Ryuzoji name and take the position of the castle lord here? Ryuzoji's eyes looked straight at Liko through the screen. Liko is still the same as usual. I can't tell what he is thinking from his expression. He is just staring at the monitor. I see. Could it be that this is the real purpose of this game? As a detective, he gained status and fame, but the only thing he didn't get was a successor who could inherit his aspirations. Maybe this game also has the purpose of choosing a successor. Of course, people like me weren't even counted among the candidates, so it's more accurate to say that this is Liko's final test, or Mikagami Ray to be precise. If it is Liko, he should be qualified to sit in this position. Maybe he will become a detective who surpasses Ryuzoji Geka. There is a follow-up to Ryuzoji's last words. There are 2 envelopes in the cabinet, a black envelope and a white envelope. The white envelope contains documents about inheriting the Ryuzoji name and the entire castle. If you choose it, you will become the castle lord. The black envelope contains your Crime Victims Relief Committee's wanted letter. In short, it's a document that identifies you as an enemy of the committee if you choose it. Standing beside the cabinet, Kirigiri pulled open the drawer and took out 2 envelopes. Just like what Ryuzoji showed us in the recording, there are 2 envelopes, white and black. Kirigiri placed the 2 envelopes side by side on Ryuzoji's body. My last will is the same as I just said, but I don't intend to force you to accept it. It's your freedom to choose which side you want. Make a choice after a careful consideration. The path chosen by a detective like you may be enough to change the whole world. It's a pity that it's impossible for me to live in the world you chose. Now then, I wish you good luck in your struggles. Ryuzoji's expression was the same as that of his remains, as if everything that had to be done had been done. He stopped recording. Liko looked down at the 2 envelopes. White is the Ryuzoji name in this castle. Black is becoming the committee's enemy. What are you going to do, Liko? Kirigiri asked. Well, that person really left an interesting question in the end. At this moment, the door behind us opened, and the children in the castle rushed into the room at once. There are about a dozen of them. They must have known that Ryuzoji had passed away. They aren't showing any signs of surprise. They aren't here for Ryuzoji Geka, but for Liko. Liko. We need you here, said one of the children. Don't you want a name? Then you should inherit Ryuzoji-sensei's name. It suits you well. Yeah, Liko. The children's voices overlapped. Liko glanced at them and took a step towards the envelopes. It's supposedly a choice done without any hesitation. The opportunity to become the recognized heir of Ryuzoji Geka is not one that can be obtained casually. Status, fame, money, land, and national level of trust, it's almost everyone's dream. There is no reason for ordinary people to not take the white envelope. However, for Liko, the situation may be a little different. He has reached the highest detective rank and has been free from any constraints, enjoying the fun of solving mysteries. He's not the type to be satisfied by staying in one place. As for whether he would gladly agree to become the heir of Ryuzoji Geka, I don't think he would. On the contrary, I bet he will refuse it all for the sake of freedom. That said, if he chooses the black envelope, will his freedom be guaranteed? That's not the case either. The Crime Victims Relief Committee will identify him as an enemy. They will pursue him even more, and if he is to fight them, he must be prepared to give up his freedom. Can he do it? Then it's better to go with white. No, it's better to go with black. Which envelope will he pick up? What will he choose and what will he give up? We all waited nervously for his choice. However, all right, that's enough. Something hard pressed against my temple. It's Tsutsumi. He is holding something at me with his bound hands. I can see a small pistol in his hand, the kind of derringer pistol that is often seen in movies. Fortunately, I borrowed this from that drunk detective beforehand. It's your fault for not tying my hands behind my back, Miss No Good Detective. Screams among the children was heard. Shut up, little brats, I'm your master from today on. Ha! That white envelope belongs to me. That's not how this works. I shouted. No, it is. The person who holds the white envelope will have this right, isn't it? I will become the new Ryuzoji and take over the castle. Liko, shoot. Kirigiri said. However, Liko shook his head. There are actually no bullets in it, it's empty. Ha, so you were bluffing. Can you even shoot a gun? Kirigiri said provocatively. Tsutsumi immediately pointed the gun at her and pulled the trigger. The gunpowder exploded close to my ear. Kirigiri pressed the back of her left hand and squatted down. Blood dripped down her fingertips. Stop it. I tried to grab Tsutsumi's wrists. However, he quickly went behind me, made a circle with his bound arms, putting me in it, holding me down with one hand in a death grip, and deftly pressing the muzzle of his gun against my temple. Kirigiri-chan. I'm fine, the wound isn't deep. She gritted her teeth. That brat is really annoying, I'll kill her if she keeps nagging. Okay, let's walk to the envelope. With me as a shield, Tsutsumi walked to the bed. Don't do anything funny. Tsutsumi looked at Liko and warned him. Liko was about to take something out of his shirt when he stopped. It's all right, Liko, if you have any tricks, just use them. I said. The two of you are a little too close, can you separate a little bit? Idiot, who would separate after hearing you say that? Tsutsumi said while poking me with the muzzle. Hey, pick up the white envelope. I won't. I expressed resistance. You don't have the luxury to refuse. If you don't now, I might shoot that kid over there. I advise you to think about it before you speak. Come on, pick it up. Can I just give him the envelope? If I hand it over to him, will the castle and the children really belong to him? I have no idea. I didn't expect it to end like this. What should I do? Hurry up. Tsutsumi hit my cheek with the grip of the gun, the metal part cut the side of my face, and I felt blood running down my chin. There is no third chance. Come on, pick it up. I made up my mind and reached for the white envelope. In the end, did I lose the... My ears started ringing. The children screamed. Kirigiri and Liko are looking at me in surprise. What? What happened? Tsutsumi's arm that was holding me down suddenly lost its strength. His weight is all on me. I couldn't bear it as I bent down, and his body fell off me. Tsutsumi laid down on the white floor. A pool of red blood quickly expanded on the floor. There is a bright red hole in the center of Tsutsumi's forehead. I immediately looked around. Liko doesn't have a gun in his hand, and Kirigiri is still holding her left hand. Of course, the children are too scared. Could it be Ryuzoji? No, Ryuzoji has long since died, and it doesn't look like there is any mechanism that can shoot in here. Then who on earth fired a gun and from where? It's him. Kirigiri looked at the ventilation fan in the room and said. The iron bars are about a width of 5 centimeters. The ventilation fan is slowly rotating behind them. Eh? Who? The only one with this sniping skill is him. Kirigiri said in a low voice at that moment. The wall around the ventilator began to crumble piece by piece under the violent pressure from outside. The wall collapsed in the blink of an eye, and dust flew in the clean white room. At the same time, petal-like snowflakes also flew in. What appeared there is a tank. This is the first time I've seen the real thing. So I don't know if it really is a tank or not. But at least that thing came into the room. By making a large hole in the wall, with a huge gun barrel sticking out of it, and climbed over the debris with its tracks. We were speechless and could only stare in awe. Finally the tank stopped in front of the bed. The hatch on top of the tank's hull opened. Jumping out of it is a foreigner in a black suit and black tie that's like morning clothes. It's not the first time I've seen this handsome wild face. One of the only 2 detectives with the highest rank, 000, in the detective library now. He jumped down of the tank and suddenly started firing his submachine gun at the empty walls. The children screamed and squatted down, covering their ears. Finally, the flashes and gunshots stopped, and I looked at the wall through the rising smoke, where the bullet holes reads. Johnny is here. How's that? This kanji looking good? The submachine gun spun around Johnny's finger a few times before he finally threw it high behind him. It landed exactly in the hatch. Law Enforcer Johnny Ark, DSC number 000. Rule violator punishment complete. He announced this over the intercom. It took all my brainpower to recognize what was happening in front of me, and I didn't even know where and how to process this information. Long time no see, Kyoko. Johnny walked up to Kirigiri, he grabbed her hand and shook it, then patted her on the shoulder. You're all ladylike now. Kirigiri was taken aback and looked up at Johnny with her mouth open. And nice to meet you, Mikagami-kun. Johnny shot an imaginary bullet at Liko with his fingers. I'm here to say hello, and also to bring you the third option. Johnny took out something from the inside of his suit and held it up. It's a star-shaped badge. A sheriff's badge. If you're with me, you can peek at NASA and Area 51 all you want. Now, follow me. Johnny tossed the badge out. What is this guy thinking? How could Liko just follow him so easily? I'm coming with you. Liko immediately caught the badge with one hand. What did he say? Wait a minute. I couldn't help but shout out. I subconsciously stopped him. What are you thinking, Liko? Are you serious? Yeah. Liko ignored the 2 envelopes and jumped on the tank. Neither white nor black excites me at all. It gave me a headache. This looks more interesting than that side. Liko proudly raised the badge and said. Don't you understand, Liko? Kirigiri said sternly. You will be against us. You're the one who doesn't understand, Kyoko-san, this is way more fun. Liko showed his usual angelic smile. Okay, Mikagami-kun, no, Liko? That's not a cool name, alright, from today on you are Dragon. Dragon, bring the box inside the tank. Dragon seems a bit. Huh? What else would you like then? Falcon, Drachmage? Drachmage. Let's discuss it later. Liko said this, disappeared into the tank, then quickly came out again with a large bag that looks like a musical instrument box. Okay. Johnny jumped on the tank, took the box from Liko, and threw it at my feet. Kyoko, Yui, this is a gift for you. Gift? Let's put aside this complicated stuff about detectives and successors and play a game with me. It's a simple one, the winner is justice. Johnny put his left hand on his hip and pointed at me with his right. I couldn't speak, I just panicked. Is a new game about to start? I'll send you a letter in a while. Alright, see you later. Johnny got into the tank hull. Goodbye, Yui-san, Kyoko-san. Liko also got in the tank. This can't be a Liko. I thought we are companions. He will be our enemy. That super talented 000 is our enemy? I just can't imagine how terrifying this is. The tank spun its tracks, reversed backwards, turned around, and disappeared from my field of vision in an instant. They are gone. Kirigiri-chan. I ran to Kirigiri's side. Is your hand okay? It's fine. Let's not talk about this, the box. We opened the box together. Inside is a pitch-black long gun, a sniper rifle. An old man got off the plane at the airport. He has a white beard around his mouth, a thin body, and is wearing a suit with a gentleman's temperament. With a cane in his hand and a bowler hat on his head, he looks at first glance like an old-school English gentleman straying into modern society. The gentleman looked around with nostalgic eyes as he walked towards the taxi stand. A black car stopped in front of the gentleman. The door opened and the gentleman sat in the back seat. Where are you going? Just drive, I haven't been in this country in a long time, said the gentleman, leaning his back on the seat cushion. The car moved forward. By the way, you're getting good at making funny faces, Shinsen, the gentleman said to the man in the driver's seat. The man in the driver's seat pulled his tie away and shrugged. As expected of Fuhito-san. It seems that during my absence, this former innocent young boy has grown a lot and learned how to misbehave. And you seem to have aged a lot during that time. Of course, I'm not young anymore. The gentleman used two hands to hold the cane beside his feet. So, what do you want from me? I want to celebrate your long-awaited return. Oh. 2 weeks ago, there was a murder case in a locked room that had nothing to do with us. Several detectives have begun to investigate, but the case has not yet been solved. Of course, I don't know the truth either. How about a contest to see who can solve the case first? That part of you hasn't changed. Of course, I promise a temporary truce during the investigation. Alright, maybe it'll be a good warm-up exercise. I hope your brain cells aren't senile yet. Quite a mouthful, young lad. Then I'll escort you to the crime scene. To be continued.